not muted? Okay.
Not muted.
But it doesn't look like we're going, dude. Like, I don't see the fucking Jason. I don't think you did anything wrong, but it doesn't look like it's working, dude. Yeah. Are you looking at the actual YouTube studio? No. Are you looking at the actual YouTube studio? You have no idea what I'm talking about, do you? Jesus Christ, dude. I got to be harder on you, bro. I'm too soft on you, man. Yeah. Refresh. Oh, no, it's that one. There you go. Live. There we go. Okay. So we are live.
Woo.
So we are live. Okay. Good. See? You put the pressure on, guys. Fucking show up. That's how it works. Woo! Cheers, buddy.
And we're going, yeah, hell yeah.
I'd literally choose you, but you have water, and that's bad luck.
Yeah,
to choose water.
yeah.
We don't do that around these parts. We don't do these around.
We don't
parts.
tolerate that water
but
around
dude,
these parts.
you guys were awesome, dude. It was so good to see you guys live. I haven't fucking seen Jake in so long, dude. And
thanks, man.
Like I forgot how good you guys are. Like, I know that's preposterous because I've known you guys for a long time, but like I forgot how good you guys are.
Thanks, man.
You guys are very, very tight. And Jake gave me some good advice about like tech and like helping me out with some affordable in-ear setup.
Oh,
so
sure.
I got the little rig. I got the little in-ears now. I got the little
little
fucking pack on the.
Yeah.
On the,
Did you see me drop mine twice during that show?
Yeah. Do
Like
you remember?
a fucking asshole,
dude. And I didn't see you drop it. I seen you having trouble with it. But then they were also having trouble at the front of the house with either a line or a signal.
It was only actually that was on stage. That was my vocal line that was going from. It was the extra mic cable that was going from our main brain box on stage, because everything's self-contained with us, and yeah, it was one of my vocal lines, so I wasn't getting any of my vocals in my monitors in my ears at all. And so
then
they
something
had to
eventually
shift.
dropped and it quit going out the main.
Well, they had to end up putting me through front of house instead of through the brain box.
I get it. I understand it. I respect it because you guys sounded phenomenal. So when it goes well, it goes well. But this is exactly why I'm like a minimalist when it comes to live band setups.
Oh, sure.
Is because when shit like that goes wrong, your techs have to first of all, you have to have techs.
Yep.
Because you can't do that live. Not if you're going to continue to put on a good performance for the concert attendee, right?
Right.
And they have to get that figured out like within seconds. And that's just a lot, man. Like, it's impressive when you guys pull it off, though. So I give you props to having the balls to do it. Because for me, it's just like what can go wrong will eliminate it. If you don't truly need it, eliminate it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's actually kind of part of the rush for me, honestly, is like, that's part of the joy of like, I love the unpredictability. I like the fact that that you can sound check and literally and everything's perfect and you're like, fuck yeah, cool. And then literally 3 hours later and all the equipment's done is sat there, some shit won't work.
Yeah.
It's astounding how fate will grab you by the balls and just be like, I don't care.
That is part of the game. That is part of the ironic.
Yeah. And so that's like the imperfection is part of the live music experience. Like, I think people are a little too conditioned these days to the sweeping perfection of the internet, and the idea behind attending a live event is part of it, at least, is that you don't quite know exactly what you're going to get.
Right. That's why I don't like playing to a click either, though. It's the same thing because you might play.
See, and in our world, that's why we love playing to a click.
Sure,
because you're trying to control the few things that you can.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
We have the same like
overall mission, different tools at different disposals,
different executions, different parts. That's music, man. That's the entertainment business.
That's cool, right?
Is. But yeah, it's cool, dude. So you guys got another one coming up. You're doing, what is it? We put it in the description. I just forgot.
A week from today.
Yeah, Thursday night.
Yeah, Thursday night, the 19th. We're at Amsterdam.
Night, though.
Yeah.
Like for a Thursday night, I was like,
Born of Osiris.
I'm like, that should be a Friday night bill. Like,
yeah. Reflections coming out by the thousands.
But maybe not. Maybe that's a testament to how big all you guys are starting to become, that you don't need a Friday, Saturday night for that bill.
I think Born of Osiris doesn't need a Friday or Saturday night.
You see what I'm saying, though?
Yeah. I mean, we're happy to be a part of it, but
Like, think about it. When you're a new band, you're stuck on like Wednesday and Thursday nights.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah,
then,
I get it.
Then when you get good locally and regionally, you're playing Friday and Saturday nights.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then when you get really good, you go back to playing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday
Yeah.
nights. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. You work your way back around.
Yeah.
That's
Isn't that strange? I never thought about that before.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's wild. So what else you been up to, man?
Oh, just
what's new in the fitness world?
Oh, I guess plenty. Got a bunch of new clients, which is cool.
Jason, will you grab me a beer, please?
Bunch of new clients. That's cool. Just grew the business a lot this past year. Worked with a lot of people. Had a lot of good success with clients. Helped.
So when you say you got a bunch of new clients, like percentage wise?
Oh, I mean that's like getting
like
5.
10%?
I mean because we do one-on-one fitness coaching.
That's why I'm saying percentage
coaching.
wise. So did you grow your clientele by 10%? 12%?
Yeah, it's probably somewhere in the 10 to 12%. I haven't run the numbers for this year.
Numbers. I mean,
we did have a really good we had a good year.
If you were a mega corporation, shareholders would be very happy right now, Eric.
Yeah, well, I don't ever want to get like that, but I don't need somebody coming after me with a fucking gun.
So, dude, what's going on with this? Like, why do people suddenly think that like all CEOs are in danger? You know what I mean? Like, and then why do suddenly the other flip side of it? Why does everybody suddenly think it's cool to hate all CEOs?
I think it's just this eat the rich thing. It's a fucking mindset.
What's going on with this?
Yeah,
dude?
I don't know, man.
And I'm not even saying whether the guy deserved it or not, because I think he kind of deserved it. Like the way he bragged and handled his business. Like I don't say he deserved it, but he had it coming.
I think that
I'm not surprised.
I think that when you work in the upper echelons of a system that causes the death and or ushering into poverty of millions of people every year,
right?
That you're at a great risk of having someone want vengeance against you,
and that's what I'm getting at.
And as there's more exposure to like what these motherfuckers make money wise, the choices that they're making, like you can't hide anything anymore. Like, it's all out there now. And so as more of that information comes to light, I mean, people only stay under a thumb for so long, man. Like, you're only willing to put up with so much bullshit and so much.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, if you're a CEO and you're doing something unethical, whether it's legal or not,
right?
If you're doing something immoral or unethical to the point where people want to kill you, then maybe you should be in fear for your life, and maybe you and your company should reconsider how they do things. Number one.
Yeah.
And number two, don't be surprised when that happens.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't think like that him dying is anything necessarily to be celebrated. I think we should probably take a step back and think about why we've allowed ourselves to be in a position where we would want to celebrate the death of, you know what I mean? Like there's a
the
whole
lack of empathy, like,
well,
because that's what
it goes
is.
both ways,
and it's kind of hypocritical. Think about it, like we're saying that guy has a lack of empathy, because he fucked people over.
So we're stooping to that same level kind of thing,
right? And now that he's dead, we're lacking empathy, and we're like, fuck that guy. It's like, dude, this is the shit that Jesus talked about. Like, dude, we're no better. We're doing the exact same thing if we react that way. I'm just trying to have the social commentary of like, right, but kind of like with Trump winning. Like, I was very surprised that he won, but I was not confused as to why he won.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So, like, yes, I'm surprised that people are actually this fed up with CEOs, but I'm not confused as to why it's happening. Because, like you said, people will only stay under your thumb for so long. And then it will eventually, if you push them far enough, it will lead to a violent revolt.
Yeah. I mean, I think people should be... I think there is a segment of the population that, whatever, the healthcare industry itself is a giant fucking mess of corruption and bad science and terrible fucking incentives, and it's just awfully structured against the people that it should be trying to help. And so that you're not going to change that system like just by complaining about it on social media. Unfortunately, the reality that I live in and that we all kind of live in is that you got to stop looking for other people, entities, systems, whatever, to take care of your shit for you.
Right.
You've got to fucking pick yourself up and do it yourself. No one's coming to save you. and so
I don't think there's any arguing that either.
No, well, it does seem to be a bit of
I mean, it's not
a bit of an anti-accountability movement. It seems like quite a bit in the last 10 years.
To be a victim. Right?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. And
which is kind of what I was getting at earlier, which is like, how did it suddenly be like, it's like mainstream thought to hate all CEOs? Because like, honestly, the vast majority of motherfuckers in this country come from nothing. Like this is the thing. The 1% is literally 1%, right?
Yeah.
And the vast majority of successful people in this country are not the 1%. And they didn't come from the 1%.
No.
So most of the people that we're talking about are not Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, who, by the way, haven't fucked over anybody. They created a product or a service that we willingly engage with, and they've created, in many ways, something that is either better or more convenient for most of us, right? Like, and the amount of if people are like, oh, he doesn't pay his workers fair enough. Well, dude, then fucking literally, he's not forcing anybody to work at Amazon or Tesla. Like, it's just not a thing. Like, it's just not a fucking thing.
That's a perspective for sure.
And where they put these fucking warehouses to employ these people, it's not like they just put a bunch of mom and pop warehouses out of fucking business. That's, again, not how it works. What happens is they build a fucking warehouse in the middle of nowhere, and they bring 1,500 employees to a fucking rural area that had zero traffic, and now the gas station is booming, now the local bar is booming, now suddenly there's a fucking hotel, like suddenly there's a little bustling little thing happening here.
Yeah, they do have an effect on the communities and stuff,
and
like
it's a
that.
net positive.
Yeah,
that's the point. It's a net positive. And if you don't like it, then don't fucking shop from Amazon. But don't get mad that the guy's fucking jacked.
Yeah,
you know, like, I know he started off as a weaselly little nerd.
Yeah,
but
he did.
But dude, like, I don't know.
But
Amazon's the shit, dude.
But isn't that the American dream, though? Like, isn't that what that is?
I get the same drumsticks from Guitar Center delivered to my house at the same price or lower for zero shipping. And I usually get them within 24 hours, bro. Come on, you guys. Like, this is way better for me as a consumer. Like, as a poor
understand.
person.
Yeah, I understand.
This is way better, dude.
I understand. But there's zero conviction in anything you just said. Like, as far as like,
I'm not going to die on this hill, but at the same time, like, I have zero conviction or, like, understanding of, like, why people are like, fuck Jeff Bezos. I'm like, why?
Well,
like,
a lot of that stuff comes from, I mean, I think a lot of folks don't really understand that if you really believe that, like, there's nothing left, if you're in the lowest part of the U.S. economy or in income levels or whatever, there's nothing left for you here. Like, all you have to do is, I saw some meme that said something around those lines or whatever, and I was like, if that were true, then nobody who owns a business ever would have had any success. Because, like, that myself included, like, 4 years ago, I was homeless. Like, I was couch surfing.
Literally.
I was literally fucking homeless for, several months.
You might have not been like tent knit.
No,
George Floyd
but
style.
I had no lease. I had no key.
Right.
To Robert Paul Champagne it from YMH or whatever.
There you go.
I didn't have a lease and a key. I didn't have a lease and a key. And so, like, I literally had nothing. I had no job, no income, no anything, and now I have all those things.
And now look at me. I'm on top, baby.
I mean, I'm not on top by any means. I got, like...
But you're not suffering anymore.
Well,
you're
I mean...
even past surviving. You're moving into that transitionary period from surviving to doing well to hopefully, again, this is the key, hopefully, if you keep working hard, maybe you'll move from doing well to thriving.
Right.
Right? And that's the difference. Like, I don't want to cut you off, but I want to... Because I will not remember this, and it's important. We used to come to this country or be born in this country poor, and then we thought if we worked hard, if we do the right things, maybe someday I or my children or my grandchildren will be wealthy. If we just make the right decisions, maybe it'll all work out.
Yeah.
Now motherfuckers come here poor or are born poor, and they expect to die within their lifetime wealthy. And when they're 30, 40 years old, they're spiteful that it hasn't happened yet. And the irony is they haven't even put in the work or made the right choices. So there's a psychology of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's I'm explaining what the actionable or indirect action of what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But it's like... It's just a bizarre mentality that everybody's in.
The thing that many folks, I think, don't understand is that if you want to get what you want, you have to be willing to take some fucking risks and to kind of lay it all on the fucking line with this stuff. Like, I had a kid to worry about. I had child support hovering over my fucking head that I needed to try to pay and that I couldn't, and so that I had to let lapse. But I had to do all that, and I had to live like a fucking renegade a bit to dodge through this fucking system because it's set up to work against you. And
do you
so
think
you
it's
have
set
to
up
put
to work against you, or do you think it's just not set up to uplift you?
It's not set up to uplift you, for sure.
It feels like it's
not,
set up to against you.
Right, exactly. That's
but I
how
don't think it actually is.
No, it's very well. If it were, it wouldn't be possible to navigate it, right, at all. Like it would, if it were really truly set up against you.
That's what I was.
You couldn't.
At.
Yeah, you couldn't navigate it. So, but you can, and that's the cool shit. Is that you can. You just got to get fucking creative.
Right.
And you got to get fucking convicted. You have
depending
to get
on where you're at, because let's be honest.
Yep.
Your local politics and your local government setup can hinder you more than other local governments.
Right.
So if you're in a certain place with a lot of regulations that, sets up things to make it even harder for a small business to do their thing and come up, it may more hypothetically, it might be way more difficult to start a business in Minnesota than it is in Wisconsin or fucking Texas versus Florida. I don't know, because I've never tried to start a business.
That's why I got
scratch.
All these assholes incorporating in Delaware, because they got all the loosest tax laws and shit.
In everything I've also done, and I know there's some weird Oklahoma and some Wyoming and Montana shit, but there's some. But regardless, everything I've ever set up has been a slow grind, piece by piece. So by the time it comes to forming a business, there is no. It didn't matter where we started it or how we were operating, because it's always it's never. I never started in Amazon.
It's a DIY thing. For the most
exactly.
Part. Yeah,
and it starts off. But dude, that's one thing we should talk about at least later. Let's plant the seed now. Is if you do your business properly, and especially if it's the equivalent of a side hustle,
sure,
right? Or maybe you're putting 20, 30 hours a week into your deal, and you've got 20 hours a week as a part-time job, so the part-time job's your side hustle. Either way, point being is if you LLC it and you do it right, the write-offs for your actual side hustle, your real passion project, can lower your taxable income at your real job or your part-time job to a point where you're Donald Trumping it and you're paying zero income taxes.
Right.
It's very possible to do it 100% legal above board. And this is my point, to keep it strong with the analogy and to keep building these parallels of these corrupt CEOs and gaming the system and how hard it is if you do it right, even as a small business, you can pay zero taxes, because again, and people go, that's not right. Well, yes, it is, because again, what those people aren't understanding is they're very narrow vision, very immediate reactionary people.
Yep.
What they're not seeing is what the government sees and what economists have shown, is that when you do the macro, when you extrapolate, these things become a net positive to the economy and society, because even if this guy doesn't generate a bunch of tax dollars directly with his 7 employees doing window washing,
right,
the self-empowerment that comes from this guy, and the weird psychological chain reaction that puts in his family, so his kid might turn around and start the next software company because he sees his father not failing.
I mean, I don't think the government...
Not even making it rich, running his window, but he's not failing. And he's seen his dad survive and almost thrive and had the inspiration and the confidence. This is still a blue-collar, middle-class upbringing, or lower middle class most of the time.
Yep.
And then that guy... So again, the people who even are the 1% usually don't start from 1%. They start just like you and I.
That's,
And they just keep putting... It's one foot in front of the other.
It's honestly... it's not even really... for most... And this is just my experience I've got a lot of friends who've started successful businesses, and I'm in those kinds of circles a lot of times, and most of the people, it's not really about the money anyway. The money is just like a byproduct of just doing the work.
And a lot of that money's also not real.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's borrowed, and a lot of debt involved in a lot of that stuff.
If I told you my net worth, you would be like, there's no way that's true. And I'd be like, yeah, I know, because it's not true. But that's how they do that math.
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, but yeah,
you'd laugh in my face.
Good year. You know, I don't think that the CEO being murdered didn't dim my day at all necessarily.
Right.
I mean,
right.
I unfortunately understand it.
And it's literally fuck around and find out on a corporate level. Like,
Kinda.
You guys are not infallible. I know you think you are because you're a big corporation and you don't see the masses. It's so many dystopian storylines that we're seeing play out from shitty movies or cliche movies, I should say, because some of them are really good movies, but the storylines are a bit cliche. Ready Player One is a great example of that.
Yeah.
You know, some poor person fucking fights the corporation all the way to the top and assassinates the leader.
Right.
Unfortunately, right now, it's not going to make the world a better place. It might temporarily, make United Healthcare rethink about how many
if anything,
policies they deny. But
one thing, but one thing I do think that I think there is going to be a bunch of good that comes from it because we're having conversations now that we weren't having before, and about healthcare in particular on a number of levels, and obviously
and let's for anybody who's not kept up with the exact subject we're talking about, dude got assassinated or deleted from life. We're probably gonna have to edit that. We're probably being demonetized the longer we talk about this, but regardless, they deny, I believe what I read, their average was 34% of claims, and the industry average is 16%.
Yeah.
So it was more. It was like 34.3 because it was definitively more than double.
Right.
I did see another graph where it said 32%. So I don't know how reliable any of these stats are.
Right.
But the accusations is they're doing something highly unethical, and that's my point. Is to kind of wrap up this idea here is the opposing parallel of the two. Not all CEOs are the same. But if you're in one of these companies that's doing something that is obviously unethical, like how could you be doing? I think insurance is a scam.
It's a very obvious scam. It's a ridiculous obvious scam.
And I understand they need to deny claims and they need proper investigation because insurance fraud is real.
Yeah.
Like I know people that have done it.
Yeah.
Like, I had hail damage.
But isn't that sort of part of the profit loss prospectus that they should draw up as a company? There's going to be X amount of fraud in this space. You know what I mean? Like,
but you should also be able to deny claims because of fraud, right?
Sure, of course.
It's the things that aren't fraud that really should not be denied.
But like chemotherapy or like anesthesia, like it was the example that keeps getting brought up, is that like Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield Anthem was gonna like cut it off at a certain time limit or some shit like that.
Yep.
And so like, come on, that's. And now that this guy gets killed and they back it off, like.
But this is exactly my point. Is like, if you're doing something unethical, it's kind of the corporate version of fuck around and find out.
Totally.
It goes back to what you said. You can only keep people and put them under your thumb for so long before there will lead to some sort of fucking.
And the next thing that happens is probably not going to be healthcare related. It's going to be in some other, like I saw like somebody drove their car through the dealership,
because they wouldn't
take the vehicle back.
The same algorithm,
we might.
Dog?
But so you're going to see it happen.
I got to double check my fantasy. This is horrible for podcasting, but I'm in the playoffs. There's a lot of money on the line. There's $2,000 on the line.
All right. Well, as long as I get a cut.
I can't fuck this up. So I almost got booted out of the playoffs because I forgot to double check and start my starting lineup. Looks like Guarendo's in. I'm good to go, homie. Jason, I want you to give me some updates and tell me how Isaac Guarendo is doing tonight during the football game, okay? All right, good. This is very important to me. Dude, I've never made the playoffs in this league. It's a big money league, fantasy football.
Okay.
I know you're not a big football guy, but
this
is a big deal to me, dude. This is the most competitive league I've ever been in. If you win almost $2,000.
Okay.
It's a couple $100 to get in. And
you guys just hang out and like fantasize about who's going to win?
Yeah,
this stuff?
and then there's some co-masturbation.
Okay, little Dutch rudder action going on. Okay,
Dutch rudder, Dutch rudder. I
gotcha.
forgot that one. That was good.
Turn it in circles. Turn it in circles.
Yeah. No, but it is like a fake football team with players. And
yeah,
like,
I mean, I understand how it works.
It's
I'm just
dumb.
being
It's
facetious,
stupid.
but
No,
yeah.
it is super dumb. Like I was joking at.
Hey, everybody's
at
hobby
work
is
today
kind of
about how
dumb, you know.
stupid
Like
it
I make
is.
gurgle noises into a microphone in front of people for my hobby, so don't, you know.
But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a huge difference between that CEO and a Jeff Bezos or an Elon Musk or the CEO for, I don't know, not an insurance company.
I don't know, man. I don't put, like, I'm not on anybody's team. Fuck, I don't trust anybody, any of those people. Like, I think that there's possibly the fact of the matter is, like, we just don't goddamn know. You don't know what narratives are being fed and streamed into our fucking brains through these phones, and like, you don't know what to really trust. Like,
you know.
I mean, I know not to trust any of them.
You know about a few things.
Yeah, a few things.
You know about nutrition and fitness.
Yeah, yep.
You know about music.
Yep. But I'm just referring to, like, those guys.
Fair
like,
enough. But what I'm getting at is you know how to filter through that bullshit.
Sure.
And so there are filters and stopgaps. We used to call them gatekeepers, but that's not a thing anymore because there's no gate to be kept anymore.
Right.
The internet is
Yeah.
wide open. So what now, you guys? You're no longer a gatekeeper. You're a stopgap and a filter.
Right.
Okay. To disseminate the bullshit that comes from the top. So this is a
True.
perfect segue into what I wanted to have you on the podcast for tonight, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Which is two things. Obviously, like, what have you been up to? All the new information, nutrition, because this shit is rapidly changing fast as fuck.
Yeah, it's
right?
moving quick.
But I think the launching pad here is, especially coming from what we're talking about, to bullshit information coming down the pipeline, corruption, bad companies, specifically big companies, right? So big insurance, big pharma,
big food,
right? So how excited or worried are you? What are your opinions on a guy like RFK being in a position to direct HHS, which for people that don't know stands for Health and Human Services, which means he, if I understand it right, he oversees
CDC,
the EPA,
FDA, USDA, EPA.
It's all of it.
All
it's
four
basically all the agencies.
Well, those four big ones for sure, and then like there's
So
subsidiaries.
slow it down.
In
It's
between there.
EPA, FDA,
USDA, CDC,
and the CDC.
Yeah.
And how excited or nervous does that make someone like you, knowing what you know with your true expertise?
Yep.
And all the new information that's come out over the last year or two regarding food and all that kind of stuff.
mean,
so catch us up to what
yeah,
you've been
so,
up to and where your mind's at right now.
I mean, none of the stuff that's really been
thinking?
coming out is honestly, it's not really all that new. It's stuff that, like, in our circles in, like, personal training and nutrition and stuff, it's all shit we've been saying for 20, 30 years.
Fair enough.
It's just that
so
it's
maybe
just
a
that,
better way to
it's just
set
that
you
there
up
used
then?
to be such a heavier line drawn between personal trainers and like doctors from a point of authority. Like, personal trainers were always kind of like scoffed at and like goofed at, like, a little
fairly,
bit.
by
Yeah.
the way, because
Well,
there used to be a lot of woo involved with it. Like,
yeah, I mean, yes and no. It's always about the same amount of woo.
okay,
It's still about the same amount of woo, because there's corners of that fucking internet and stuff. Like, I see it every single day. Every single day.
remember the one I sent you?
Yeah.
Where I was like, this lady is, and you were like, slow down, buddy.
Yeah. But,
I was
like,
like, okay, that kind of makes a little bit of sense.
yeah, but, like, the stuff that we've been saying essentially is, like, avoid processed foods. And it's for these reasons, because they make it with shit ingredients and all this kind of stuff. And, like, now there's just a lot more information, a lot more, like, a paradigm shift that's becoming a more mainstream line of thought, and that there's some more evidence coming out, especially in regards to things like food dyes, and seed oils in particular.
So
that's a big one that people are like,
okay,
there's not enough evidence. But
okay, that's exactly what I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you about, because that
Yep.
is one of the things that has been over the last year or two. That's a new, what I would call, buzzword.
sure.
Seed oils.
Yeah,
right?
it's got this fear attached to it. But basically, so basically, big food uses cheap, industrial-made, fake fats.
Can you define that?
Yeah,
Because I really want to slow down and not let our ADD kick in this
right.
time.
So
what does that specific term mean? Industrial made.
Yep. So these are oils that are extracted from plants, like soybeans. So these are all commoditized crops. So soy, corn, sugar, and then canola is a seed of a plant. So is an oil extracted from a seed of a rapeseed.
Rapeseed.
Rapeseed is canola oil. It just uses rapeseed and grapeseed both are basically canola oil, or can be made into canola oil.
Which one was an actual industrial lubricant?
Well, corn oil and soybean oil were both being used in like World War II.
Jason, look this up. One of them is literally originally designed as an industrial lubricant, and it sucked, but they had already invented it.
They just had a lot of it after the war, the wars, and they needed to find a way to sell it, to get rid of it.
Which food oil was originally an industrial lubricant? That's what, because it's and I thought it was canola oil.
Yeah. I mean, it's all of them really. Like seed oils in general, the process of going through that, especially if it's not like there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can do like a cold press where they just basically essentially like use a hydraulic press and press the oil out of the seeds. They do this through a cold filtration process where they don't do any like chemical processes to it. They don't need to.
Right. That's like olive oil and...
Well, yes, that's how they do that with olive oil and avocado oil mostly. But avocado oil is also problematic because a lot of the... Yeah.
Canola. It was canola oil. Okay.
Yeah. So this
and
stuff...
It wasn't one of those things where, well, they used it this way. I'm saying it was literally designed as...
Yeah, lamp oil.
Yeah. And you are correct. It was from rapeseed.
Right. Yep.
This is why I love having a producer. We can actually, because it's not about being right anymore. It's about proving it now.
Right. Yep.
Like, no, we didn't just make this up.
Yep.
And I will always side with AI when it sides with me. So
that's convenient.
Dude, there's so many times we look this shit up and AI will give me some and I'm like, that is not fucking true. Find me a different explanation because that's not right.
Yeah, well,
AI's not there yet.
Good thing cognitive dissonance has pervaded the internet as well, so you can find whatever thing you'd like to steelman your own argument. Don't worry, it's out there.
Well, and that's what I've learned is we all, especially me, and I've always been pretty good at this, but now that I have a podcast, like I really need to slow down and be like, hold on, what are they actually saying? So, what does that mean?
Right. And so in this case, in regards to the seed oils thing, there's a lot of folks that are saying that they are heart healthy and that they are, like, because that's the whole thing, right? Is that you look on a thing of vegetable oil, canola oil, or soybean oil, there's a big heart logo from the American Heart Association that says this is heart healthy. Now, if you were getting just a little bit of vegetable oil in your diet, it might be because you'd be getting a good balance of fatty acids in your body, right?
Now,
so
what do you mean by that? A little bit, like once a year you eat chicken strips
like a couple of
bar?
times, a couple of times a week at most. Like you're getting a little, like maybe some vegetable oil in something that you're eating that,
Like maybe you sauteed some vegetables, or is that even too much?
Well, you might saute vegetables in canola oil if you don't know any better, yeah. Or you might eat at, the restaurant down the street, and they might fry their fries in vegetable oil or canola oil.
And you think you could get away with that maybe once or twice a week tops?
Yeah. And not really see any like imbalance between your omega, 6s, 9s, 3s. You wouldn't see any like imbalance at all through any of that stuff. Okay. But here's the problem. Human beings are monogastric animals. So are chickens, which human beings currently in the last 10 years.
Does that mean we have one stomach?
One stomach, yep. So anything that we eat, it goes right into, we become, basically, because we don't have...
So literally you are what you eat.
Exactly. So same thing with, chickens, fish, and pork are all, again, monogastric, single-stomach animals. So whatever they eat goes directly to their meat, and then you eat that, and then you get it.
So is there a good analogy here with like how they show you the thing about seafood where little fish get eaten by slight blah, 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 and then by the time you make it up to tuna, they've consumed a bunch of mercury, so you got to be careful how much tuna you eat?
Exactly. So you're getting a bunch of linoleic acid, so monogastric, single-stomach animals don't have the ability to clear linoleic acid from their cells, okay? We don't lack that ability. Multigastric animals, so animals like cloven hoof, like your cows, pigs, or not pigs, cows, your goats, your elk, antelope, deer, all these things, ruminant animals, they have the ability to clear linoleic acid from their cells.
So, even though not all of them have multiple stomachs.
Right, yeah, not all of them have multiple stomachs. But
they have something in, whether it's their pancreas or some other, their liver, whatever the fuck.
It's a part of their intestines, part of their gut, where they're able to clear that. And so then their meat is going to be a lot healthier in general, have a better balance of fatty acids than such high levels of linoleic acid.
So we shouldn't eat people.
At this point, it's probably not a great idea. At least not Americans. But the whole point is that these things pile up in our systems, and we're getting them. Food companies have switched from using things like more, natural, animal-based fats like butter, all this kind of stuff, any saturated fats, because that's a whole other lane of things to talk about,
right.
The medical healthcare stuff, but it's cheap. Seed oils are cheap. Food producers can use them, and they're edible, and they can use them in a lot of their foods.
And I think they last longer as well. They don't break down as fast
absolutely.
through cooking. So like this
well,
goes
no,
back
they do. That's the problem, is that they have low smoke points for the most part, and they oxidize really easily. And they oxidize just through storage and through temperature changes, like transport and everything.
Okay, but I thought it was one of those things where the reason they moved from like beef, because like they show you those things from like the 60s and 70s where McDonald's fries were made. There's three ingredients.
Yeah.
It was potatoes, salt, beef tallow.
Right.
Because that's what they were boiled in. And the beef tallow didn't last long enough. It condensed down too fast. It got dirty, whatever you want to refer to.
Yeah, you had to clean it.
Culture, whatever.
Yeah, you had to
clean
it more often.
And so they would replace it more often.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the canola oil or the corn oil or whatever, the vegetable oil, whatever the fuck it is they use now in that kind of shit, it can last through an entire shift or an entire day.
Yeah. They don't have
Maybe
to change
I'm wrong
it.
about that.
No, you're right. They don't have to change the oil out as often. Correct. Yep. So it does become a cost issue, right? It's cheap.
Right.
So and that's before the oil gets super dirty. That's not the like the oil oxidizing or breaking down temperature wise and everything like that. That's a different thing entirely.
Right.
And that's the problem, is that when you heat those oils up, they become trans fats. Well, in 2011, the FDA outlawed trans fats to being in food. But,
really?
Yeah, but
that started in California. Actually,
and they said there's
Oreos, remember that?
Yep, they said there's no safe level of trans fats, except for all these restaurants are frying all this shit in
that
oil
turns into a trans.
It's not a trans fat when they put it in the fryer, but it heats up and it changes and it becomes a trans fat. So now you're consuming.
So what is a trans fat?
Oh man, look up the definition for exactly how the molecular difference in trans fats.
But while he looks that up, conceptually, what's the difference between fat and trans fat?
Well, it's like highly inflammatory to the system. Essentially, it's like a fatty acid that's already got. It's like inflammation that's built in.
So it's
right into the system.
So here's a shitty analogy. It's like bread versus bread with sawdust in it.
Oxidative stress, basically, yeah. So
like you can have pure wheat bread, or you could go back to like medieval times where they literally put sawdust in the bread in order to increase and cut it like Coke almost. Yep. But the problem is there's so much cellulose.
Right.
There's so much cellulose and wood that it actually was really bad. It filled you up, but it was like physically harmful to you.
So what they're doing is they're basically using partially hydrogenated oils. So that means they're replacing a molecule. This is where you hear like it's margarine's one molecule away from plastic.
So what they're saying is, okay, so trans fat is a type of fat that's created by chemically altering vegetable oils to make them more solid. So what they're really saying is basically they're trying to take an oil and turn it more into something like a butter
like
or
a lard. Correct, like a Crisco kind of thing.
And that's where it gets applied to things like the Oreo cookie, that spread, that cream spread.
So that can't be a trans fat. But the oil is still in there, and the oil goes into the fryer, and it gets heated up.
So margarine is a trans fat because
absolutely.
It's definitely not only made from an oil.
Well, now it's not, because they removed partially hydrogenated oils from it. So it doesn't have that in there anymore.
Okay.
But seed oils, when you heat them up like that, they convert. That chemical change that happens inside of there. So it basically becomes a trans fat.
I don't want to get off topic, but this reminds me of like when I was a kid and I heard terms like organic.
Yeah.
To me it sounded like natural, meaning from nature.
Right.
Right. So this is like butter is healthy because it comes from a living animal that all of us have eaten for no matter what you do to this cream. Yeah. Like even turning it into ice cream, it's the sugar that makes it whatever, right? But it's still like, it's still of nature. It's still natural, right? Yeah. Whereas now we do this shit and we create things like margarine and all these weird spreads and artificial things. And to me, it's very interesting that something in culture has flipped where now vegans think that shit is somehow healthier than... Because to me, if you're a real hippie, if you're a real like organic nature person, like you're raising your own chickens, you're hunting for food, you're fucking literally skinning deer and like using the skin to make shit like rugs and other, you know what I mean? Like, like that's a real hippie, like a Native American to me. Like if you're a vegan, you should even be doing shit like that. Like maybe you're not skinning animals because you're a vegan, right? But like you should be growing your own vegetables, because to buy factory farmed shit, to eat all this soy-based product, to do all of these other things that are seemingly organic and seemingly healthy, to me it's very unnatural, and it's, to me, super obvious, borderline common sense, that none of these other things that we're doing in a lab could possibly be as healthy as things that we can derive directly from nature with as little steps as possible. And I don't think it's fair to say processed foods are the same thing as talking about butter or cheese, because they go through a process to get there.
Yeah,
I don't think that's fair.
That's the whole thing too. Whenever when we're talking about like poisonous, toxic chemicals inside of food, and we're talking about chemicals, and some asshole has to be like, "Well, everything's technically made up of chemicals." Yeah, dipshit. You and your university education can come in and highbrow us all day long and beat us over the head with shit like that. Like, well, everything is gonna But you know what we're talking about.
Here's
when
a great
we talk
example.
About that.
Here's a great example. Yep. And this we can, if I do this right, we'll be able to bring this back to.
We're gonna weave it.
The source.
We're gonna weave it.
Baby, I invented the weave. Donald Trump stole that term from me. But on this podcast, he personally watches it. But it's true though. He does actually do that a lot, and most long form conversationalists do that anyways.
Yeah.
It's just so funny to call it the weave.
It's really funny
because sometimes you got to bob.
Sure,
but to me, it's so interesting because even those vegans will be like, "Oh, I wear no animal things." It's like, okay, cool. You're wearing oil.
Yeah.
Because if you're not wearing cotton or wool, or if you're wearing polyester or any
petroleum products,
literally derived from crude oil.
Yeah.
And not an exaggeration. Like it's not even like rubber from a rubber tree, which is still technically organic, right? No, we're talking about literally you're raping the earth, right? Yep. So this should be so veganism in many ways is anti-hippie. You know what I mean? But they should be the same thing, because it should be about loving nature and loving the earth and doing what's best for the earth.
Yeah.
Same thing with the electric cars. Dude, I've looked at these mines. Dude, I've done a lot of fucking research, bro. And, like, I have a hard time looking at a cobalt mine or a nickel mine and watching what they do and going, yeah, this is better for Earth and society than fucking oil in Texas, dog. Ugh. Not trying to get too far off subject, but again, I want to bring it back to this idea of like healthy versus unhealthy, synthetic versus natural. Because I don't even like the word organic anymore, because that's a marketing term now.
Yeah,
I try to say natural because it's from nature, right? And getting back to this idea of like butter versus margarine, seed oils versus olive oils, because that's where we started with this.
Right.
To bring it back full circle, it's like
just healthy fats in general. Yeah.
Somebody who's not a certified nutritionist, never was, even as a child. And this is what I'm saying. My base, simple instincts were like, I'm pretty sure butter's healthier. Like, I literally remember listening to Dr. Oz. I was 14 years old. I was 14 years old. My mom's watching one of those stupid things. I'm getting ready for school. It's on in the background, and I'm waiting the 10 minutes before the bus comes, and I'm going, yeah, no, I'm going to just keep eating butter no matter how many times they flip-flop. Like, it has to be healthier because it's from nature. And to me, that's the end of the argument, dude.
It's a
and
pretty
I know
good,
that sounds arrogant from somebody who's not a certified nutritionist, but
It's not. It really. It all comes down to balance. Honestly, it really does. Like you need having some polyunsaturated fatty acids, which is a majority
Jason,
of the
beer,
kind of fatty acid that comes from seed oils is a polyunsaturated fatty acid. So you do need some omega-6s, which is what that is, in your diet. Like
But
your
can't
body
you
should,
get those from eating those seeds?
Well, no, you wouldn't really want to just go out and eat a soybean. I mean, edamame is basically
No, you know what I
soybean,
mean, though. Like I don't need whatever omega acid or whatever the fuck I'm getting from, say, sunflower oil or corn oil. I would get that from eating corn or eating sunflower seeds, wouldn't I?
Right. You would
or,
get
or
you would
almonds
get
or some other nut.
Exactly. There's better ways to get that shit.
By the way, are nuts the same thing technically as a seed?
Kinda.
I mean, I know they're the fruit of a plant.
Yeah.
But categorically, are they technically?
It's kind of its own thing. Like nuts and legumes are more closely related. Nuts,
That's
seeds,
right. No,
nuts,
you're
seeds, and legumes are kind of all sort of related.
Yeah, but you're right. No, nuts and legumes are more closely related.
Yep.
Legumes are like green beans and not peas, but
no. So like black beans, pinto beans, lima
green
beans.
beans are absolutely
because
they fuck me up. Like my GI, I can't do legumes.
Okay.
It's one of those things where we've talked about this.
Sensitivities,
where it's like, it leans me towards, and my doctor, it leans us both towards so maybe I do have Crohn's.
Oh.
Because black beans, pinto beans, any of the beans.
You might just need
dude, they fuck me up.
You might just need like a low FODMAP thing, like a low inflammatory type thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I gotta stay with all that stuff. I can get away with it if I have a really diverse and healthy diet for a long time. I can get away with dipping my toe into the pool because it's about a healthy gut biome and it's about a balance. But it's so my gut biome is so unstable, dude.
Stop dumping alcohol on it.
Well, yeah.
I mean, realistically,
here's the thing that definitely seems to help for a while.
Yeah.
Because when I do sober October, the first 2 weeks seem to be great, but then I'll have I can quit drinking for 3 months, and for the first week or two, it seems like, oh my god, maybe it's the booze. No, it has nothing to do. I'm telling you, dude, I can go 100%.
Well, I mean,
the biggest suspector, other than weather.
Yeah,
we're starting to think it's environmental because that does have to do with arthritis and psoriasis and other inflammatory diseases.
Yeah, like if you were to have
sugar, it might just be straight up sugar.
Well, I mean, you might have what's called an overgrowth of SIBO, like a particular kind of bacteria that grows in the stomach.
It grows and it thrives on sugar.
Yeah, but
so that's what we're suspecting.
Alcohol becomes sugar in your body.
Yeah. It's worse with the high fructose shit though.
Yeah.
It reacts specifically to those synthetic sugars again. To get back to what we're talking about, right? So there's a huge difference, and I don't care what anybody says. This to me, this is common sense, and eventually the data will come out to back me up, just like it did with all the other instinctual things.
Yep.
High fructose corn syrup is not comparable to the sugar in grapes or tomatoes or even fucking cane sugar. If you're eating small amounts of these normal from nature sugars, I'm telling you,
that has to do
not
more
high
fructose corn syrup is synthetically made to be calorically dense, and fruit is
so it's like a shot.
Yeah, so I mean, fruit is not calorically dense, so you can eat you can eat a pound of strawberries.
So a handful of grapes or a pound of strawberries is like drinking a beer.
I mean, I wouldn't relate it to that, but
corn syrup is like taking shots of vodka or whiskey or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just a hyper concentrated,
dense amounts of sweetness.
You can drink one beer a day, and there's actually plenty of evidence that says it might be somewhat good for you.
No, not anymore. They have dispelled that completely. Absolutely.
Really?
There's absolutely zero net benefit at all to drinking alcohol.
Any beer whatsoever.
Any beer whatsoever.
Really?
Anything. Yep.
Because I was even just listening to Dr. Drew the other day. Probably the only credible.
I mean, okay, so maybe it might
physician.
have a temporary blood pressure effect while you drink the beer. While it might lower your blood pressure temporarily while you drink the beer, but then you'll return to normal and/or rebound higher after the fact.
The thing I like about him though is he never claims that everything he's saying is bulletproof.
Yeah.
He's always just talking about
reasonable.
The most recent shit he's done. But he again said the same thing that the classic shit said: is as soon as you go past one beer, any positive effects are immediately negated, and it's exponential.
Oh,
so
yeah.
A beer and a half, you've already negated what you did. 2 beers, you're in the negative already.
Yeah, it tanks pretty quick.
Yeah. But apparently, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to take your word for it that's
appreciate
not credible anymore.
Yeah. I mean, the liver only can do so much,
And I'm sure age has something to do with it too.
And
metabolism has something to do with it.
Yeah, your general sense of metabolic health, like where you're at with that, like how quick and how insulin sensitive you are, has to play that. But anyways, to get back to the question that we were kind of wrapping around, like how does it make me feel knowing that, a guy like RFK Jr., whatever, you kind of asked that, how does that make me feel? I don't feel any which way about it. I don't care about what is up with him at all, what people think is up with him. What I care about is the fact that we're having these conversations at all. We weren't having them before. It's now becoming okay to ask these questions, and it ties even into the healthcare CEO thing too. It's like, why are we so unhealthy as a country? What are the things? And I don't care. So let's say that you don't think that it's seed oils, right? Like, there's no randomized control. I get this one a lot. There's no randomized human-controlled studies that show that there's a detrimental effect from eating seed oils and all this kind of stuff. Okay, then how do you explain if they're heart healthy and there's more of them in the food supply than there's ever been before, and so that means people are consuming seed oils at a massive rate, then why does the cardiovascular disease rate continue to skyrocket? Make it make sense for me. Now the onus is on you. You get to prove to me why that's happening. You tell me. You come up with a better answer, because that's how we have conversations and debates here.
Right.
Is that so you don't like my idea? What's yours?
You know what sucks, though, is that's not how science works.
Well, but
what sucks is science works. You have to come up with an idea and then test that. And then if you think your results prove it's true, you have to show them to everybody, and they have to be able to replicate them.
Right.
So you can't, unfortunately, in actual science, you can't just be like, well, why is this? Prove it wrong. It's up to you. That does work for debate and things like that, which might give somebody the motivation to build a study.
Right, but that data is already out there. That data is already out there. They've already zoomed out and looked at the rate at which seed oils have pervaded in the food supply and the rate of which diabetes and heart disease and all these chronic diseases have, and they go up at the exact same rate. And we're talking 300 million people in this surveyed study.
Sure.
And if we're okay with using epidemiological studies and science to prove why seed oils and the food are okay, then we should be okay with showing that kind of data to use.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So I get a lot of pushback in that regard, but and so I'm okay with whatever. I just want to have the conversations. I want to have the talks. I don't want to be right. I'm not saying these things to try to be right. I feel like I am, because if you avoid, so just stay with me.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you, dude.
If you avoid,
I'm just adjusting. I got a bad back again.
When I say
tweak,
when I say avoid seed oils, what's that mean? Well, that means you're going to avoid junk food. The places where those oils are found the most are junk food. So just avoid.
So you're not just talking about cooking with them.
No. If you saute some things with a little bit of soybean oil from time to time, you're going to be fine.
Right.
If you fry something occasionally in canola oil and eat it, it actually might be heart healthy. But the problem is that we're getting these oils from terrible fucking sources that are poor quality. And you're getting these oils from terrible quality sources of food.
Well, and that makes sense, because even olive oil, something that is definitively, unarguably okay,
amazing for you, as long as you get
people. It's like the one thing that like carnivores and vegans are all like, olive oil is great for you.
Right.
It's also one of the most highly fraudulent things.
Exactly.
But this goes back to my common sense thing, right? From nature, right? So it's natural, because again,
you can squeeze an olive and get olive oil out of it.
Well, and not only that, dude, but like what you were saying about like all the other seed oils. So like for me, this is how my brain literally works with these type of issues, is like, if I were in ancient Roman times,
sure,
right, would I have gathered up all of the shit, lifted stones, smashed them down, and had fucking cattle running in a circle to grind these down and squeeze the oil out of it? If that doesn't sound reasonable, because you need modern machines to do it, you need, hydro pressing and fucking bringing it to, 750 degrees.
Chemical hexane treatment to deodorize
you're dropping
it,
ammonia in it to fucking
bleach.
Now, like, not natural. Not natural. That's unnatural. We probably shouldn't eat it in a decent amount. Not only was olive oil made back then, but it was so obviously good for you and reasonable and all of those things, because it's not only okay for you, it seems to be good for you.
It's very good for you.
Like certain motherfuckers straight up drink olive oil. They take like a shot of it every morning.
I do that.
You're that motherfucker?
I take 2 tablespoons of olive oil a day.
Check this shit out. This is so legit that even back in Rome, olive oil was frauded.
Oh yeah,
fraud. I'm not saying the right term. What am I? Counterfeited.
Yeah, counterfeit for sure.
Yeah. So like going back to ancient Rome,
they cut it with
nowadays. Olive oil is still one of the most counterfeited things. They don't just cut it, dude.
Oh, they completely
make other oils and then color it, shadow it, do all the things. So like there's a process to, like, I think you put it in the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't get cloudy, it's not real olive oil. So there's something weird.
I can't remember what
everybody can Google it.
We
don't even need to look this up. You guys can Google that on your own. But it's a real thing. I'm promising you. It's 100%
Yeah, that
real.
actually is a real deal.
And everything we're saying right now is so true. So if something was so highly sought over since ancient Roman times, it's probably
got some value, right?
Good.
Yeah.
If it takes heavy machinery or a chemical processing, that can't happen with just a bonfire, right? And maybe a pressure cooker, you know?
Yeah.
Like there can only be. You see what I'm getting at here? I hope the listeners are catching up.
The old
with
lady
me too,
churning the.
Yeah. I see. Again, we have the same feed, bro. We have the same feed, dude. I'm telling you.
That's funny as hell.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
You're a horrible person.
I know.
I know you now.
Yeah.
I know what's going on in your brain.
I'm fucking well aware.
You're fucking fucked, bro.
Oh no, my secret's out. Fuck that, whatever.
Well, guess what? It's safe with me.
Yeah, sure.
And all of these listeners. But
you're right though. I mean, in that regard, like,
to me, those things seem common sense and just super obvious. Like that's the way I deduce those. Like, should I eat this? Well, could I have made this or a version of this in ancient times? Then yeah, I could. So for example, if I take some fucking oil and I heat it in a deep fryer and I cut up some tortilla chips, I drop it in that oil, I pull them out, throw them on a paper towel, throw some salt on it, homemade fucking chips.
Yep.
I could see myself doing a very similar, almost exact version of that 2,000 years ago. I'm probably going to be okay as long as I don't do this every single fucking day.
Yeah.
But, again, you look at, well, that's Mexican culture right there. That's literally making tacos.
Yeah.
They took that flour, they ground it up, they fucking deep fried that shit.
They made the flour themselves for
you
the
see
first part. Yeah, they stone ground it and everything.
Full circle
back to,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So now we can go, okay, this is probably not the worst thing for you.
Yeah.
We're not even saying this is healthy. Whereas these other things, it's like you can kind of pretty obviously be like, that's probably poison.
Yeah. And I think that's, I mean, people don't want to accept the fact that they shouldn't be eating a lot of the shit that they're eating. Mm-hmm. Like that's hard to, pardon the pun, but hard to swallow.
Yep.
That like, and then also like nobody wants to feel like they're wrong, or like that they're somehow stupid or ignorant to something, you know, especially something so common and necessary as the food we eat, you know. And so there's a lot of
feeling
people
like you've been tricked or duped is a bad feeling.
That sucks, right?
But
like
what you should do, I will give advice on this because I go through this feeling all the time. Like, oh my God, I've been fucking tricked this whole time. That's a super positive and empowering moment.
Yeah,
because now you also realize
you're smarter.
There's new information to act on. Like admitting you were wrong and you got duped is one of the best, most empowering moments you can ever have in your life. Because it acknowledges that you're wise enough to see the of your own ways. Yep, I said the of your own ways, and you can fucking finally move forward. Because denying that you've been duped only keeps you in your bubble. It keeps you comfortable. It keeps you infantile.
And that's why, like, when I say
clip that.
That's why when I say that like when I say avoid seed oils, I'm just telling you to avoid junk food. I'm not telling you to like not cook with reasonable amounts of soybean oil or even canola oil or whatever.
I love that. Yeah.
Like I'm not saying it to. I'm saying it to scare you, because I don't want you to eat the bad shit food that everybody's eating. If you just eat at home and you just make regular fucking food, like real shit that doesn't come from a box or package, just cook up some chicken, cook up some potatoes, cook up some vegetables, you're going to be fine.
Throw some extra salt on there.
Yeah, seriously, toss some salt on it. You're probably not getting enough sodium. Like
that's a big thing.
It's a huge thing.
We've
talked about it on here before. Like
we should talk about that again too. But I want to talk more about like staying on this and using this as your segue and you're jumping off, and you can again wrap up your thing with RFK. I thought you would be more excited because
no, I mean I am. I'm excited. I'm more excited because he's willing to have the conversations.
Well, and it seems like he's gonna start shifting and not allowing a national narrative that eating grains and seed oils.
Yeah, I'm excited about that kind of stuff.
Food is good for you and okay for you.
Yep.
Like fat positivity. Like,
we
shouldn't fat shame
shift.
people. We shouldn't fat shame people. We shouldn't.
Nope.
Because certain people have things like thyroid conditions and other issues, and certain people it is a deal. But we should not be doing this like fat is beautiful thing, because it's not. Like these people die super young, 35, 45 years old. They're fucking dying of heart attacks, and it's not.
Well, it's
just like nobody's
sure.
glamorizing me smoking cigars.
No.
Like, but nobody shames me for smoking cigars.
No.
They're like, I get it, but you probably shouldn't do it, especially indoors. I'm like, yeah, I got fans, I got filters and fans. Like, we're fine.
I think everybody should be able to do whatever they really want to with their body and stuff.
You keep going.
Yeah, it's cool. I think that's fine, that you can want to do whatever you want with your body, and you can make all these choices and stuff, but there's always a cost exchange, right? There's always a risk. And then I don't think that we should be like pretending that that having excess adipose tissue on your skeletal frame is somehow healthy, or somehow that you're not going to encounter problems with that eventually, or be at a higher risk for problems to come down the line. Most of all, I care mostly about it because I want people to take better care of themselves and to have a good quality of life, because you can you could be any size you want to be, and you can be happy and maybe you don't feel the best all the time, but you're relatively happy and everything. But then all of a sudden that first chronic disease pops up, and now you're on prescription 1, and then you're on the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing, and pretty soon you're on 4, 5, 6, 7 prescriptions. You're diabetic. You've got all these issues, and then you want to pretend like we shouldn't be concerned, And I think that it doesn't have to come from a place where we're judging anybody on their body, or making any of these value assessments about the content of a person's character based on their size or any of this kind of stuff.
Right.
It's not that at all. It's just that it's a fucking lie that you're going to be healthy like that. You're not going to stay healthy if you are massive like that. You can't.
Well, it's not sustainable.
It's exactly.
And so to put this in a more relatable context for a lot of my listeners is a lot of us are sports fans.
Sure.
Specifically football fans.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest athletes in the world are 300 pounds.
Sure.
But they do not remain 300 pounds and alive for their entire fucking life.
Well, that's
they
because
can do that for, at most, about 15 years.
Right.
From 20 to 35. And the moment they fucking retire, if they stay that weight, they die.
Right.
Not immediately after they retire, they don't die. But
they die earlier.
Most of those guys slim down a lot. Even guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who were bodybuilders, they were jacked. They have to slim down.
He's still pretty big.
Well,
for being 70 or 80 years old now.
He's a huge human
years.
being, dude. He's 6'8" or something like that, or 6'6" or some shit.
6'4", I think, 230 pounds.
Well, I think originally he was 6'6" or 6'8", and I know him like a lot of us.
Oh, yeah.
Shrunk quite a bit. So he might be 6'4" now.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure. Look it up. In his prime, how tall was Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, he was either 6'4" or 6'6".
He's a giant man, and yes, he is still. His hands are big still.
Yeah.
But when you look at his body,
yeah,
he is significantly smaller.
Oh yeah, he carries way less. I mean, but he just carries less muscle mass. But yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. Because even maintaining that. Those bodybuilders, I was just listening to fucking More Plates, More Dates guy, and he's like, it's not sustainable. You can't.
6'2". Yeah.
He's only 6'2". That's not right.
Crazy.
That's not right. I'm not believing that. Fuck.
AI
fuck
gave me
AI.
that fucking
fuck
answer.
AI. It's not true. I've seen him. I know people that are 6'2", and I know other celebrities that are 6'2", and I've seen those people stand next to Arnold, and they're dwarfed by Arnold.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that's right.
Right now.
No, I'm pretty sure that in his prime he was. Yeah, that's
in his prime. Bullshit.
6'2", 230. Yeah, I knew he was 230.
His dick is 6'2".
But anyway, to your point about the tying this all back around or whatever to the RFK stuff or whatever. Like I want him to change the standards. I want to look at. I would love it if we got back on some kind of form of like bringing back gym classes and like funding better school nutrition. And a lot of times at schools and stuff, especially like school lunches are fucking terrible. Mm-hmm. And that might be the only good meal that like real meal that some of those kids get at all. And that's wild to me that we're feeding them the bullshit that we're feeding. When I was in school, we've talked about this on the podcast before too, fucking Domino's Pizza and Taco Bell were in my school. Monticello High School. Papa John's. Yeah.
Which surprisingly, like you get a Supreme Pizza, you know, depending on the ingredients it's made with, a Supreme Pizza is actually like one of the more decent balanced meals you can get. It's got a little veggies, a little cheese, a little protein.
Yeah.
You know, some carbs in there, you know.
Quite a bit of carbs and fats in there. Yeah. I mean, and not really the best quality sources either. But if you're not going to die from it for sure from occasionally having that.
Right. But it's not healthy for you, but it's like one of the least shitty things you could probably eat.
Right. I want to stop the glorification. I'd love to see it stop the glorification of like the like American obese person. Like it just seems like that's a vibe with America. Like, oh, we like our food big. We like our, you know, like this whole thing is like, dude, a 64-ounce soda. Like, yeah,
you know who's a big
freedom,
part of that?
Freedom.
You know who's a big part of that? Fucking Arnold goddamn Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Have you seen that documentary?
Which one? The Arnold one?
Yeah,
on
Netflix.
Yeah.
Like he was part of the marketing play. That's where the Hummer came from.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like that's like he took that everything's bigger in Texas, applied it to America and marketed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like ironically.
I mean he did do that for the Hummer stuff and like the big explosions and all that. I mean that was like
is better.
80s to 90s excess, right? Yeah. And it kind of spilled over into the 2000s, and now we're where we're at and shit.
Yeah, it's America.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I kind of miss it a little bit.
I mean, I miss the attitude of like...
I miss it when we weren't worried about everything.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, well, those were the days. But yeah, I just want to see people take better care of themselves in general.
I miss the days where the biggest things we had to worry about, dude, were AIDS and... were AIDS and anti-Semitism. Like, those were the two biggest worries in the world, were anti-Semitism and AIDS. Like, that was, dude, I really, truly believe that the mid-'90s, right before the internet truly became what it is, I really believe we kind of peaked right there.
That was a pretty sweet spot.
Like, dude, movies were still the shit.
Yeah,
right?
They were really good.
Like, dude, like, an album coming out mattered. Like, dude, the new Metallica's coming out, you know,
sure.
Fucking... Like, things just, they were so different. We were talking about this before the podcast started tonight.
Yeah.
Everything Lizzo has said about the wellness routine she's developed through. Oh, yeah, now she's losing weight, too.
But that's
not what I was talking about.
But that's a good thing.
It is.
That's a really good thing.
It is, but that's not what I was referring to when I brought up the Lizzo thing. I was bringing up the, like, I'm proud to be fat.
Well,
like,
no, that's what I'm saying
fat.
Is it was why that's a good thing is because she once said one thing, and now she's saying another, and I think people get mad. What's that? Oh, yeah, because of the South Park thing. Yeah, for sure. I'm almost positive of it. Like, that was the thing. I'm sure she was – I had heard she was doing stuff before that, but I'm sure that like – and she was a good sport about it, in all fairness. She dressed up like the box of Lizzo for Halloween.
Did she really?
She fucking did.
Bro.
She did.
Good
she
on
was
her,
a super
man.
good sport about it.
Good
like,
on her, bro.
That was the way to handle that. And she continued to work out, and she's talking about her fitness journey and stuff like that. So, hell yeah. Good job.
That's as good as Snooki, dude.
Right?
When Snooki... Do you remember when Snooki found out she got married? She immediately made a tweet and she goes, "Snooki wants smush smush."
Yeah,
I finally made it, guys.
Yeah,
like, that's when you know. Dude.
I mean, dude, that's the way to
like
do it.
Like being parodied on SNL.
Yeah, own it. You know, have fun with it. That's fine. But yeah. So I think that the fact that we're able to have the conversations now and talk about this stuff a little more openly, and like, I think that's a net positive. That's going to be a good thing. But I think people got to be willing to have the conversation and. That requires you like looking outside of your little dogmatic echo chamber social media box where you're being fed the things that are all common knowledge stuff for your lane. You got to look outside of that for different information. And, you know, I just think you should be open-minded to that kind of stuff,
You want to know why I am excited for him to be in that exact spot?
Why is that?
Because I think with his background as a lawyer, he can navigate the red tape of not allowing big pharma, big food, big sugar to control the narrative anymore.
Yeah.
Reverse the food pyramid. Like, he has a chance in the next 4 years to make an actual impact to the national health narrative on not just a societal or commentary level, but on an actual legislative level. Like, because he was a lawyer who worked with that shit. He cleaned up the Hudson River. Like, this, for me, I don't agree with all his politics.
No.
But when I go, do I respect somebody? I go, RFK, he's the man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't agree with everything he says. And we need to get more to this too with just society in general. Like, I don't agree with everything you say. I don't agree with all your politics.
Right.
But you're the fucking man, dude. I respect you so much. RFK, you're the fucking man. Like, I want to put you or vote you into a position of power, and I'm not going to agree with every decision. In fact, we might even overturn a few of them when you leave your position 8 years from now or 10 years from now or 18 years from now, whatever, right? But I respect your integrity that when you do these things, it will be from a position that you genuinely believe this is what's best for society, not you've been bought by corporate interests and you've been your hand has been forced.
Yeah.
Like, this is a guy whose dad, or not his dad, his uncle. Yeah, no, it is his dad. His dad and his uncle were both assassinated.
Yeah, they were both killed. Yeah.
Like, this is a guy who still decided to get into politics and joined the team of a guy who almost got assassinated.
And now,
like, this is a guy with fucking balls, dude.
Yeah, well, he's definitely convicted, right? Like, he's convicted in his beliefs.
You mean he has conviction?
He has conviction. Yeah.
This is a guy I will follow into battle. And again, I've never believed in anybody 100% other than Jesus, right? Like there's just zero people that are ever infallible in their logic or their wisdom or their preaching other than Jesus. Like, you can, even if you don't believe in God, irrelevant. Like, you can look at what Jesus said and, like, try. I dare you to find some flaw in the things that Jesus, not people that believed in Jesus. No, those are regular dudes. Just saying, this one guy. It's the only person who's ever been infallible in his logic or wisdom.
The red letters stuff and all that. Like,
I'm talking about the actual words that came from Jesus' mouth. Like, those. That's it. Everything else, people's interpretation of it, fuck them. That's me. That's me 1,500 years ago. Fuck that guy. He's probably drunk. You know what I mean? Like, fuck that guy.
I mean, most of them were pretty drunk.
Why are you listening to fucking Jared Singer from 500 AD? Fuck that guy. He's an idiot.
The water was poisoned. They were drinking wine. So,
But RFK is one of those few human beings where I'm like, listen, I'm not going to agree with everything you say.
Yeah.
I might only agree with 38% of what you say. I'm making up some arbitrary number. But I believe in your integrity, and I will follow you into battle. I will vote for you. I will put you in a position of power. If I have power, I will appoint you power. If I'm just a voter, I will vote for you to have power. RFK is a guy who is way left-wing for me. Yeah. But I will still support him because I believe he has actual integrity, and his actions and his policies and things are genuinely what he believes to be in the best interest of the American people, not the oligarchy or the aristocracy that run the country currently.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that he lives up to the things that he has put forth so far. I think that it's good to have a critically thinking individualist in amidst the group that's maybe gonna.
Well, he's 70 years old and jacked.
Yeah, I mean, he's on TRT, and that's a good thing. I don't think that's a negative thing.
Right, but that's my point.
I've heard people talk about it in a negative thing, like, oh, he's taking steroids. He's not taking fucking steroids. I mean, yes, he's on low dose testosterone replacement therapy,
right?
Which only makes him healthier.
So let's touch on this. We don't need to spend a bunch of time on this,
sure.
But people got a bad impression from testosterone because I believe it was in the early 80s. There were some wonky studies that came out that suggested testosterone supplements possibly caused cancer. if I remember correctly.
I think it was.
There's zero evidence to back any of this up.
I think it really all just came down to like Biden and a couple other people back in those days made steroids illegal and stopped research on them.
And testosterone got lumped in with it, you think?
Yeah. Well, no, it did. Testosterone got. Derek was just talking about it on Rogan. With more
but you don't think it was? You don't think it was necessarily a specific study that said testosterone can be dangerous? I don't think it just simply got lumped in. With
I think it got scheduled with a bunch of other shit.
Jason, look that up.
I'm not familiar on the history of
it. I might be making this up. But Jason, look this up. Old studies show testosterone
you can
has
just put
dangerous effects. You should find some stuff because I swear this is real, dude, and I think it came from the early '80s.
You can just ask it why testosterone was scheduled. Why testosterone got added to the
but that could be
to the schedule.
Search. I almost want to source an article rather than ask it.
Well, either way, it got made illegal, and it got bad rap because of a number of things, like roid rage was perceived to be a thing.
Okay, so Derek was talking about. That was a specific type of steroids.
That was testosterone, just testosterone cypionate.
He was talking about
tren.
Tren cough and aggression.
Yeah, but that's a real thing though.
But it's a specific type of steroid. Whereas, if it wouldn't have gone under the Biden Act of making it all illegal, we would have been able to refine that and get to some more healthy
versions
less
of those
alternatives.
Yeah. Yep. Basically, it limited research on it, limited development on new, better forms of the steroids, and I mean, honestly, people.
See, this is what I'm talking about. So we are going to read this, but this is what I'm talking about. So AI is saying, yes, studies have shown testosterone therapy can have negative effects, including, and then it lists a bunch of bullshit. Now, here's my point. Whatever AI is referencing right now.
Yeah.
Has been proven to be bullshit, and the studies that this AI is referencing are what you kind of talked about at the beginning. What did you call it? Like the you said it butts up against
the common
narrative.
Yeah, the common narrative about.
So this study that they're referencing came out in the early '80s. And there was very, very little credibility done to this study because, again, this was the beginning of the new version of science, which is there's no money in replicating studies. The money is in publishing a study.
Versus meta-analysis kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can get a study published quite easily to say one thing, and it's very disadvantageous for other people to go back and prove you right or wrong. There's no money in that. It almost takes 10 to 20 years for your idea to fall by the wayside, and then somebody else get a new grant as if it's their own idea, and their credibility for doing it is to reference your original study. And they're kind of saying, we thought he was right or wrong. This fell by the wayside. We want to test it again. And it's been long enough to where somebody's willing to fund it.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, I've listened to dozens
Scroll
of
down
podcasts
a little bit
on
that and see what.
Do you
want to
break this down and address any of these that it says are negative effects?
Go ahead and scroll down here. Scroll down. Keep going. Keep going. So look at that Harvard Health one right there.
What it does and doesn't do.
Yeah. Actually, go back one page. And then go down to the National Institutes of Health. So if we're talking about government agencies and all this kind of stuff, kind of tying.
This is also NIH falls under HHS, right?
Yep, exactly.
We forgot to mention that one earlier. That was the
NIH, fifth one. Yep. So you can go to cardiovascular and hematologic outcomes, right there. So let's see. Is this about?
Right here. Animal and in vitro studies have shown effects of testosterone in increasing red blood cell mass by stimulating endogenous erythropoietin.
Yep. Erythropoietin.
Erythropoietin and directly acting erythropoietic stem cells in bone marrow. Did I say that right? Poetic?
Yeah.
Stem cells in bone marrow. So that paragraph right there. And it's citing a study from 1974 and 1996. There's also evidence that androgens modify platelet function, including platelet aggregation, and they affect plasma proteins involved in coagulation of fibrinolysis and decrease the elasticity of vaccines. So basically, this paragraph directly contradicts one of the AI paragraphs that it cited. It said it decreased red blood cell.
No, I think if you go back to that, it was actually increasing red blood cell. But I mean, regardless, what we didn't do is we didn't keep developing instead of developing better versions of synthetic testosterone or synthesized testosterone, we stopped doing it entirely, and so now everything's
you can drop this, Jason.
so now everything's just imported and it's illegal, and anytime it's illegal, you create a black market, and it's just this, this big cycle.
And then
but
things are made with cut chemicals and shortcuts.
But that's why
Jason,
HRT and TRT are such.
Will you bring it around the backside so we don't keep going in front of the camera?
Such beneficial tools for like a guy like RFK to use, because he's getting older and he's less vital. He's producing less testosterone, so then he takes testosterone replacement therapy and he's less sick, and he gets old less quickly. The disease of aging takes its toll, and it's monitored. He's not just in the gym locker room mainline and test into his under his taint. He's fucking under the guide of a doctor who's paying attention to his hormone levels, and he's probably working with an endocrinologist who's paying attention to all of his blood levels and hormone levels and everything. And it's being managed. It's medicine. It's not. He's not just taking steroids at the gym, like oral anabolics and shit like that. So.
Well, and he works out. And that's
he actually works out, and that's what we want to see encouraged too. I think that we should want leaders who want people to be healthy.
Have you seen the memes of the old HHS director versus the new one?
Yeah, I have no comment on that.
Will you pull that up, Jason? I want
you don't need to pull that up.
I want to show people so they know what I'm talking about, because this is, pull up the meme of the new HHS director, old HHS director meme, however you want to search that, and then search the images in the background, because you're going to know when you see it, Jason, you're going to know which one I'm talking about, dude. And make sure you put the word meme in there and then search on Google Images, because you're going to find it, dude. And for me, it's the definition of why they lost the election right here. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Click that and bring that up full screen. Yep. Yeah, who would you rather have? This jacked 70-year-old dude or this double-chinned, frumpy transgender woman? Who are you going to trust to tell you about your health in the future? For me, it's super obvious, and I think for the vast majority of Americans, it's also super obvious, right? This goes back to the natural thing.
Yeah.
And I understand taking testosterone isn't quote-unquote natural, but neither is taking gender-affirming healthcare hormones. So I don't want to get into that.
No.
That's not the basis of this conversation.
No, let's not.
But again, it goes back to what I sent you that thing. I'm like, it's funny to see people that look like this giving health advice.
Yep.
And you were like, well, slow down. You know? And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. Okay, I hear that. But again, when you're given two options, and one guy's an environmentalist and healthy and jacked and is talking about fucking making people genuinely healthy, and the other person is talking about taking fucking hormones and fucking big pharma supplements and all this crazy shit, don't be surprised when your side loses.
Yeah. I mean, I think that
and I think it's super obvious. So why are people surprised?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why people are surprised. That part I couldn't explain at all. But I am glad to see the paradigm shift. Regardless.
Do need the nuance of how you explain things.
What's that?
I do need the nuance of how you explain things. But it's like the general things you preach and teach through your education and your knowledge, most of it is super obvious to me and people like me. I still need the extra details and the explanation because it just helps,
context, right?
Yeah, and it just helps kind of settle that information in.
Correct.
Like when you stir up, the fucking the beaches.
Yeah.
And you got to let the sand settle. But it's like even when it was all stirred up, I still knew where the water and the sand were. I still knew there's shit out here. And
yeah. Yep. But no,
the detail, lucky though.
The why behind the what matters, right? Like it requires context.
But I'm also lucky that I'm in that place where I can dissect all that information, even in a sensory overload moment.
Sure.
Most people aren't.
Well,
and it's a privilege that I was born with those genes and those abilities to detect bullshit and just trust my instincts.
Sure.
A lot of people can't trust their instincts, or they can, but they don't.
Well, I think
and
a lot
need
of people
like you to clarify these things.
I think that people's instincts have been purposefully, or maybe not with malice, but at least like manipulated a bit to know what's. I mean, it's a no wonder. All you have to do is go on the internet for 2 minutes in regards to health and fitness and wellness and things like that before you are met with like things that are inevitably going to contradict one another and or butt up against one another information-wise. And it's not even a surprise why people are confused these days.
But there is shit that seems to come out like every 6 months to a year where a new study came out to validate old information or to debunk some bullshit.
Sure.
And and that's why I keep having you on every 6 months to a year and not just like once every year and a half like some of the other guys, because you're in a field where not only do I have a great time hanging out with you and doing these podcasts, but you're in a field where it's evolving so quickly and there's so much information out there where not only is there like fads, right? A few years ago it was keto and then it was carnivore and then it's this and blah, 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 blah. But there's versions of those things that are proven true and false. So, for example, keto is still proven to be true if used properly for certain reasons, especially in a temporary scenario, right? Like I've still heard to this day, no matter whether it's Dr. Rhonda Patrick or some other people, like if you have diabetes, keto might be something that's very beneficial to you, and we've seen it even reverse certain effects of certain types of diabetes, right? There's certain aspects where some of these diets make a lot of fucking sense for certain people.
I think the number one thing right now that is the coolest thing that you can possibly know about any of this stuff is that there's a million ways to do this, okay? There's a million ways to get healthier. And if you have a chronic disease right now, which is anything like anything from arthritis to sinusitis, it's a disease of the metabolism. Your metabolism is jacked up, and not in a way that it's slowed down or any of this kind of stuff. You have metabolic dysfunction. Your energy systems aren't operating, and it's causing inflammation to run rampant and your immune system to attack healthy cells. And this is just a slow walk towards further disease when that kind of stuff starts. It starts out with becoming less sensitive to insulin, which means there's too many carbohydrates and too much sugar in your blood, basically. And that's where it all begins. So things like keto, carnivore, ketovore, whatever, these are really, really good for reversing
whether it's
chronic
vegan
disease
or paleo.
Well, vegan not so much, because they're going to consume a lot of inflammatory foods, highly processed carbohydrates. It's just the way that diet goes.
Oh, I thought you were going somewhere else. I thought you were talking about a temporary solution.
Nope. I mean, these are also good long-term solutions for these folks too. It's a good way to get the disease down and the body to heal, because you can repair the insulin sensitivity by not getting so much sugar into the system and just letting it chill the fuck out. And then you can slowly reintroduce things in a more balanced way if you decide to, but you can stay on keto carnivore very long term, very, very long term, and not have any negative effects as long as you manage your health the right way and you do things the right way.
And so what you're talking about is eliminating these carbs and sugars out of your diet.
Right.
Whether it's through carnivore or keto or whatever.
Or just paying attention to how much total calories you're eating and controlling your carbohydrates and the quality of your calorie. Like eating real food most of the time. You
also said earlier a lot of this shit is exactly the same as it was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this is the same as it was 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. Like they invented fasting for a reason. The term breakfast comes from breaking your fast. Like they learned it was super good for you to stop eating for a dedicated amount of time.
Well, it at least appeared that way because people would stay in really good, like from a body composition standpoint, there weren't a lot of like heavily overweight people because food was scarce, and fasting isn't something that was invented. It just sort of fucking happened because you were starving.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
I think it was intentional because if you study Buddhism, they did it to seek enlightenment and things like that.
Yeah, there's different purposes for it over time, of course. But I think that it was more noticed that it, from a nutritional science standpoint, as more what I was referring to. The spiritual aspect of it, for sure.
I think it started with the spiritual shit, and then through this path to enlightenment, because Buddhism is probably the oldest religion in the world, and it's not really a religion. I don't want to argue about this with the listeners.
Yeah.
I get irritated with this. It's not a fucking religion. They don't believe in a deity. They don't worship or pray to a deity. Buddhism is a path to enlightenment, specifically through suffering via the detachment from human cravings and attachments, like the material world, and including things like food. So that's where fasting came from.
It's the suffocation song, Clarity Through Deprivation.
So, and I think that's where it started, and then they started to realize there was health benefits over thousands of years. They started to discover patterns because people are fucking smart, and I don't care whether they know science or not. People figured shit out, man.
Yeah.
And they learned that if you don't eat for an extended period of time, it does good things for you. And so they called it a fast. You ate your supper, and then you fasted until when you broke your fast, which was your next meal, which was the next day, and we called it breakfast. And it's literally in the word, break fast.
And I'm always entertained by this too.
I'm not acting like I'm the first one to figure this out.
No,
again, super obvious to me, like borderline common sense.
So instead of even saying that, so I don't really necessarily, if intermittent fasting is the thing that helps you create a bit of a caloric deficit so that you're not overeating in calories and you're not over-consuming highly processed junk and you're not over-consuming carbohydrates, then cool, use intermittent fasting. That works for you, stick with it.
We talked about that on the last podcast too.
But there's nothing magic about just not eating it's not doing any special trick for you. It's just helping you create a bit of space so that your body has a break from the constant requirement of energy of digestion. Digestion is a working process. It takes energy. It takes money to make money, right? So you're gonna be enveloped in that process, and if you're eating a lot of high octane shit and you're doing that round the clock, taking a break from time to time is gonna feel amazing. And so fasting is great for creating a bit of a deficit if you struggle with constant daily eating and you just don't stop eating. Okay, I have this feeding window now where I, instead of a fasting window, look at it like a feeding window. I'm going to eat from 8 to 8, and I'm going to put 12 hours from 8 to 8 in between me and my next meal. That's more than enough for most people. And then if you just eat a balanced meals throughout the day, you're solid. But if you struggle with that, you can say, okay, I'm going to fast for 16 hours, and I'm only going to eat for this 8 hours a day.
But then guys get a little restless. They wake up at midnight. They go and have a midnight snack.
Exactly.
And they throw off that cycle.
Exactly. And when we talked about it last time, we kind of touched on this, and if you missed it the last time around, your fast doesn't start at the end of when you put that fork down at the last meal. It starts 3 hours after that because digestion has to take place. You're not actually fasting until after that last meal is processed. So if you are someone that's practicing intermittent fasting, be sure that you're taking that time it takes to digest your food into effect in counting your fast. If you're subscribing to the 16-hour fasting window or 18 or whatever it is, consider that digestion window in there as well, and you'll have more effective results basically from what you're trying to get out of that fast. But
and you also gave that advice last time on the podcast to cut out all those, for me at least in my situation, to cut out all the sugars and carbs before a certain time of day. And that
really
helped a lot. I felt it right away. Within 3, maybe 4 days, I quit eating basically any
right away
breads,
in the morning, right?
Yeah, right. All breads and sugars, those don't enter my body now until at earliest is 11 a.m. Usually it's closer to 12, 12:30, even 1. And then it's not even breads. It's just I eat the fruit.
Like rice or potatoes or whatever.
Well, I do a weird thing because of my lifestyle. So in the morning, I'll do somewhere between 8 and 10:30. I'll eat some beef jerky just to get protein into my stomach, something to satiate my hunger cravings.
Yep.
But then there's zero sugar or carbs that go into my body in a food capacity, right? Because I might throw a little bit of sugar in my coffee or something like that, just a little bit of a spike. But none of that enters now until at the earliest, like I said, is 11 a.m. And that's if I've been up since 4 or 5.
Sure.
Right. But if I don't wake up till 6, it's noon.
Okay.
And it's interesting because then I'm just hungry. I'm not like tired hungry.
Yeah.
I'm not
crashed. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I get that glucose spike that you talk. And it just really made sense when you broke it down. You go, you're just spiking your glucose levels. And as soon as I started thinking about it like that, like a literal roller coaster, like I eat glucose in some shape or form, bread or sugar.
Well, whatever carbohydrates you eat become, you know, in your blood.
That's
it just inevitably becomes sugar.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant. So I'm spiking my glucose levels. And it was super obvious after you explained it that way. It was like, oh, and then I'm riding this roller coaster up and then I crash. And then I meet, just like cigarettes, just like alcohol, just like any other addiction, you crave this thing to come back up. And again, on the tail end of our conversation, we started talking about the gut biome and about how those bacteria are dying. And so they send signals to your brain to
more
get
sugar,
you to
please.
eat more of that bullshit.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of took what I had been studying with my gut biome shit and combined it with what you had said. And as far as energy levels, it's made a huge difference.
More even throughout the day, right?
Yeah, way more even.
And you can get to sleep at night too because those carbs kind of.
I never had a problem sleeping.
Well, yeah, but the point is that waiting to consume your carbs to like later in the day, and then like giving yourself 90 minutes to 2 hours before bed, like when you stop eating, like
that's my biggest problem now.
Sure.
My biggest problem is I eat and then immediately, like I finally have my dinner. We usually eat around 7 o'clock, and by 8:30, I'm like passing out on the couch.
Well, if you're getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning and stuff, most days to get to work.
Not
and
most
stuff.
days. Not
sure.
most. Most days at the earliest it's 5.
Sure.
The alarm's set for 6. I always wake up before my alarm.
Right.
I just always do. It's not always been like this, but it's been like this for years now.
Cool.
Like probably 3, 4, 5 years, which I think is a good thing.
I think it's a good thing.
I think if I can wake up before my alarm, that means I'm rested.
Naturally,
so,
yeah.
And then I just get to go like, oh, I'm going to lay here for another 20 minutes and just kind of like relax and see if I can get back into that dream that was really enjoyable for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
But no, I think all these things are like super healthy. And even like my drinking is super recreational now. Like I really only have several beers like this when we do the podcast. And and it's interesting because even though I'm not a workout warrior yet, I'm slowly phasing into a more stable workout. The biggest thing is my fucking neck, dude. I gotta go get my neck looked at, dude, because the push-ups, basically anything I do, like I'm great. Like weeks will go by, and then all of a sudden one day I look up and I'm fucked, and then I can't do push-ups, and that sets me back 2 weeks. So we've talked about that a lot. I gotta get some shit looked at. I gotta go into the actual doctor and do the whole thing, and maybe even see a chiropractor or stem cell, something seriously wrong. It's it's not just being out of shape anymore, because that's a big thing for a lot of people, right? Just simply not working out.
Well, if you don't use
your
it, you
shit's
lose
fucked
it.
up, right?
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, just simply starting to work out will kind of like, especially we talked about this again on the last podcast, resistance training, right?
Yeah.
Like you do some of these things that'll like realign your body, and it can almost fix itself by strengthening certain muscles
100%.
and balancing certain things. Yeah. I have clearly gotten to the point where I'm like, no, I'm fucking injured and I need to go to the goddamn doctor.
It's good to know the difference.
Yeah, but it took a while.
It's really important.
But it took a while, because I'm also not a hypochondriac that goes to the goddamn doctor every time I have a problem. I don't feel well. I'm in pain.
Like, well, that's probably a good thing too.
Of course, it is.
Yeah. Trying to push through and get through on your own, of course. But my biggest
what I'm getting at with this point, though, just to finish this little thing, is like, I've taken all these pieces of advice. Like every 6 months I have you on, and I do my own research, and I do all that. And slowly over time, and this is what I want to portray to people, is kind of the point of the second part of this podcast, is it's one foot in front of the other, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
It is not an overnight change.
No.
Like, you do push-ups for a week straight, you're going to feel great, but you're not going to notice a dramatic body change.
Probably not.
Like, it's all of these things it's a marathon, not a sprint. These are cliches, again, going back to what we talked about earlier. Nothing has changed. 30-year-old knowledge, 1,000-year-old knowledge, it's all been figured out. The only thing is science is merely backing up and validating all the shit we already figured out, and it's dispelling all the snake oil bullshit. That's the only thing science is actually doing. Like, science, I have yet to hear a single thing that science has told us that someone didn't figure out before science figured it out. Like, some fucking monk or fitness guru or bodybuilder or marathon athlete figured this shit out already.
Or at least, or what they did is they asked the question. They asked the question that, again, like
or built the foundation.
Yeah, or built the foundation on it. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's what I think. That's why I think it's just wild.
Science is like refining it at that point.
Well,
they're putting the roof on the house that the
these
ancient
days,
Greeks built.
These days, I don't think a lot of what we are looking at and calling "quote unquote" science can really even be called science anymore. I think people have replaced a lot of their religions with this science
religion,
thing, and it's been for the worse. I think.
Well, let me give an example, though.
It's closed off people's minds to certain things. And
let me give an example that we can use as a foundation to build this third part on.
Sure.
The ancient Greeks found out, and I'm talking the ancient philosophers like Plato,
Socrates,
and the great minds figured out that physical exercise and exertion to the point of failure was critical for the mind's ability to thrive creatively.
Right.
So these philosophers would fucking like Greco-Roman wrestle the way a power athlete fucking curls to their biceps being at failure, and then they would go sit down and think about life's greatest questions.
Yeah.
They figured that out thousands and thousands of years ago, and now today we have studies that go, hey, exercise is really good for mental health and clarity.
Yeah.
That's
weird.
That's the analogous.
No, that's
compares. We already knew that.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying is like
science didn't discover that and figure that out. No matter how much neurochemistry they study.
So this is exactly my point. Is like I don't need a randomized human controlled trial to show me all of this stuff. Like most of what we do, and you kind of, to bring it all full circle, it's and what I want people to understand is that you already know how to do all this stuff. You've just forgotten because you've been confused and you've been inundated with convenience and making your life easier, and at every fucking turn, everything society aims to make things easier and more convenient and more accessible. And the thing that becomes less accessible over time with that kind of mindset is individuality, critical thinking, the ability to get off your ass and fucking do something. You have to go get it. It's not going to come to you. It's not going to be fucking convenient.
Yep.
And there's nothing that these people are saying, that these studies are saying, or any of this stuff is saying that, like you said, we don't already know. Nutritional science has given us a lot of weird nuance and like some avenues to explore, and medicine, and there's been a lot of good things that have come from it, but there's also been a hell of a lot more confusion, and I think it's come at a detriment to society. I think people are sicker than ever because they're more confused than ever. And literally people come to me and don't know how to eat. And the biggest thing that Allison and I tell people, or we show people, is just how to do that thing that like our grandparents just instinctively knew how to do. Cook dinner at the end of the night and make it a balanced meal.
Yep.
That's literally all we do. And we help people find the way to do that inside the context of their own lives. Because, again, you have to make this fit your life. It can't. There's a million ways to do this, and we help you figure that out. Which way is going to work best for you, not the other way around. Like a lot of times you go to a trainer, you go to a coach, you go to a nutritionist, dietitian. They don't ask you, like, well, how are you doing things? What works best for you? That's what I'm asking my clients. Like, what works best for you? And then I take the information that I have, and I say, here, this sounds like it's going to be reasonable for you to do things in this order of operations to get X result. Right? And so we just put it through, like you mentioned before, filters of that person, of the client, the end client.
Stop gaps and filters.
Exactly. And so it individual needs vary so vastly from person to person that I couldn't possibly coach you for nutrition or for fitness the same way that I coach Jason or the same way that I coach Daniel or whoever it is that I'm coaching. I'm doing that. It's all wrapped up into the context of that person's life and what their needs are. And it's just I just house.
It's crazy how true that is for literally everything though too.
Yeah.
Music,
yeah,
business,
all of it.
Sales, relationships, like again, we figured all of that out. Like everything is I think it's so obvious that what I tell my little brother which by the way, he's got this philosophy which I think you and Dan subscribe to. Your metabolism doesn't slow down, you slow down.
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% sure I buy into this. And the reason I don't 100% buy into it is because I think it is hormone driven. I think it's biologically driven, like as far as evolution. So what I think happens as you get older, your role, and I'm talking about in biological evolution as far as like a pack society goes.
Okay, yeah. I see where you're going
As
with
you
it.
get older, your role becomes more of a teaching role to pass on knowledge rather than being the hunter.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So testosterone drops. You become less aggressive, less willing to fight everybody who threatens you, and you start getting into more of a philosophical teaching role.
Yeah.
So, and then also watching it happen to animals.
Sure.
I'm not 100% going to say I don't agree with you guys, but I don't think it's as simple as your metabolism doesn't slow down, you slow down, and it's just because you get injured or because of this or that. I think there's something direct to, for men specifically, testosterone production, because it happens in the muscle mass and like. As you get older, it
just ushers us out of the age of being reproducers, of being breeders. Is really
not
all
as men though.
No,
I can shoot a load at 80.
Right? Yeah. We'll see, but
don't threaten me. Don't fucking challenge me, bro.
We're gonna do this podcast again in like 35 years, and yeah. Anyway, you're gonna like put a sample on put a sample on desk. I told you I could shoot it at 80.
Jared Singer, the 17th.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll be co-hosting at that time.
Yeah. And
can't wait, buddy.
And yeah, exactly. But I think I get what you're saying there, right? And I don't disagree with that at all. But
I'm just kind of like thinking this out loud as I've been reading, because I don't think any of us or any data can back any of us up yet. So we're all kind of just talking philosophically about this idea.
Yeah, I think it's great to have the conversations in this way. And like you can have as many hypotheticals as you want, and that's how you get to some sort of agreement, right? Like, yeah. So, but I think what happens is, especially in modern society, is that people do slow down in their as soon as they hit that married, kids, or more responsibility,
that is
whatever it is.
Objective truth. That does happen.
So that does happen. But
I
happens.
think that's more modern society than it is like a biological
thing. So the thing you're talking about, for like people say, oh, my metabolism slowed down, that actually goes back to, no, your metabolism didn't slow down. And we know that it doesn't actually slow down. Your metabolic rate itself, like how quick your metabolism works, doesn't slow down until like into your late 60s, basically. But what happens is that you do develop metabolic dysfunction from eating all of this kind of stuff, not moving your body enough.
Okay, but outside of that, I think the thing I failed to mention is the other idea is that the reason I believe hormonally your metabolism does slow down for a biological advantageous version is because as you get older, you get slower because of telomere shortening and all that stuff, right? So injuries aside,
right,
you get slower. You're not able to hunt as well. So you physically have to store more fat and energy to survive. And so I think there's an actual biological advantage for your metabolism slowing down and you storing extra fat from the same amount of food intake as you get older, I think there's an actual survival advantage of that, like a bear hibernating through winter. I truly believe that in time, like the margarine thing I mentioned earlier, in time that will be proven to be true.
I mean, there's
because
probably
it seems super obvious to me. Even if I'm wrong, I will admit it. But that's where my brain goes.
No, that's totally fine. I don't have anything to speak to the contrary of that necessarily, so I can't dispel it or claim it to be untrue.
But that's the only reason I can't agree with you guys 100%.
Right.
That's it. That's all I'm saying is I can't say you're wrong.
I mean, so
this is what's preventing me from 100% buying into that philosophy. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. But so
it's not like this big guy on that hill.
All of that's true, but it's not true if you continue to train. If you continue to train, that doesn't happen. So
RFK at 70 is not as fast as RFK at 35.
No, but
and RFK at 35 is not as fast as he was at 27.
Well, 27, I think he was still on heroin, so he might have been. But he might have been a lot. Might have been a lot.
Okay, let's not talk about RFK anymore.
He might have been a lot faster actually at 35 than 27. Just saying.
I don't know. Junkies are good runners, man.
Well, not if that H is kicked in. It was just mostly slumped over. But yeah, I mean,
you ever chased a junkie for money they owe you?
No. I try to stay away from
marathon sprinters, bro. bro.
It's like
a white junkie from Chicago can outrun any Kenyan. If he owes you money, you're never catching him, dog. He's gone.
I mean, I've seen Shameless enough times to know that's
exactly
true.
what I'm referencing. Actually, that's literally the reference
Frank
I'm
on
making.
there.
That's literally the reference.
I'm rewatching Shameless right now.
That's a
with
great
Allison.
show, dude.
It's
Have you seen Frank
show.
run?
Yeah. There's one episode where he's running.
That was the the joke. That's what I was.
He's like, you're out of practice. He's running with somebody else when they're having to do that.
I run for years from owing people money. You'll never catch me.
Exactly. No, but the main takeaway I think people should come away from anything that I say is essentially that if you want to stay out of the American healthcare system and you want to be healthy, you're going to have to make some sacrifices and do some things that maybe you don't want to do, but that if you do them, you will have it will be an investment in a better future and a better quality of life for your day-to-day. Not to mention, if your mental health is in the tank, and mine was, like if anybody knows how the mental health thing goes, it's me. And if your mental health is in the tank and you're not lifting weights on the regular, you're doing yourself a disservice. All other treatment methods aside, that's fine.
I think any exercise helps.
Correct.
Cardio
walking,
helps a lot, dude.
Walking, the runner's high, all that kind of stuff.
Well, even playing drums for me, dude.
Sure, anything active.
Dude, just getting my blood pumping and getting my heart rate to a certain level for 45 minutes.
Yeah, you got to get those
3
endorphins.
times a week, dude.
Yeah.
Bro, it took like, I don't know, 3 to 6 months.
Yep.
Before I really noticed that, wait a minute, I'm not having as many bad days as I used to have.
Yep.
And what I mean by bad days is like you're just bummed out or sad for no reason.
Right.
That's what I call a bad day. And then all of a sudden it was like, man, I'm feeling a little funky.
Oh, I haven't played drums.
For sure. And then it still happens every once in a while where I'm like, man, I'm just not feeling right. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go downstairs and jump on the drum. It'll be a Tuesday. Like, that's not my rehearsal. I go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like, religiously, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, well, I did it yesterday. I don't have to do it, right? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not feeling right. Let me just fuck around for 20 minutes. Bro, and I get off that drum set, and sometimes I'm not even busting a sweat, but just getting that activity. So it's not even for me, it seems like it's not even about actual exercise. It's about just physically being active, doing anything.
Yeah,
fuck all.
Yeah,
like,
you got to just get connected.
Something. Go for a fucking walk, dude.
Well, it's
move your body.
It's sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system. Like it's
touch grass. They say
it's where. Well, yeah. I mean, that's good. Probably a good thing for you. You know?
I think
I don't think it does the whole electric charge exchange ion bullshit.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at. I think the idea of touching grass forces you to move.
Well,
and nobody's just going to stand there with their feet on the ground. They walk around.
Yeah,
and I think that's what it really.
And I mean, getting connected to nature itself
grounding
is
I don't
is
know.
good. I mean, I think that chemical or that exchange happens. It's not that I don't think I just don't think it's this glorified like crazy good thing, like it's a miracle or whatever.
I will tell you though, dude, there was this one time I was doing a bunch of mushrooms, and I wasn't having a bad trip, but I was like, something was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the house, and I was just like, something's not right. I was like, I just had this overwhelming, compelling urge. I was like, I have to go outside, and I have to put my bare feet on the actual ground. And I couldn't. The concrete wasn't good enough. Like I had to be on the grass.
Yeah, you
like
feel
it was
dirt,
like
feel grass.
Yeah, and it was weird because as soon as I did it, I was like, "Yep, this is right. Like this is where I'm supposed to be." And all I did is just very slowly just walked around the yard. Figure eight. You know how big my backyard is.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of big for the city, but not huge. I mean, it's just a small yard.
Decent sized backyard.
It's a small yard, but it's not like I only had 8 feet to walk around either.
No. Yeah.
It's not like it was a cell like some backyards in the city.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I'm telling you, like even on that, because mushrooms do make you more perceptive to your own internal wants and needs. Whether it's emotional or physical. It could have been. It could have been. I mean, they say, it's again scientific fact that we're more closely related to mushrooms than we are trees.
Yeah.
And we definitely like being around trees. So if we like being around trees, maybe we like being around mycelium. And maybe that's this weird subconscious craving that we have to be in nature, to be more natural. Well,
I think one of the biggest things that we've got going on is, one of the biggest things we have going on is this giant disconnection from human beings as an animal. Like we don't.
An animal, yeah.
Oh, yeah. These folks that think about humans as like this.
We're different.
Yeah, like we're somehow different.
We're
It's fucking
we're
so horseshit. Yeah.
Have you seen Chimp? Is it Chimp Empire on Netflix?
I watched the first episode or whatever. I still keep meaning to go back to it.
You have to watch the whole thing.
Yeah. I'm sure it's great. I
Every
feel like
time
I've watched it all because they bring it up on he brings it up on Rogan all the time.
Sure.
And so I feel like I've already seen it. The whole thing.
And you kind of have then.
Yeah.
Because I totally resonate with that statement you just made. But you should still watch it because when I watched it, all I saw was us.
Yeah.
So the reason we're racist is like because we're still chimps. Like all the fucked up things we do to people, the serial
that's
killers,
definitely a lot of that
serial
stuff
killers,
is just still
torture, fucking mass murder,
still monkey brain,
all of it. Yep. And when you watch chimps, you go, oh, that's us. That's why we are. It's almost, we're not better than them.
It's almost
we're just better communicators. We just build things. Like I have a Stream Deck. That's the only difference between me and a fucking chimp is I have a Stream Deck, and I can tell you I have a Stream Deck. And I made that Stream Deck, and then I use that Stream Deck to do this stupid podcast to tell you I have a Stream Deck. Other than that, we're fucking chimps, bro.
Yeah, man.
Like push comes to shove, one of us will kill the other one with our bare fucking hands if we have
to. If it comes down to that.
For the survival of, name it, your family, your daughter, your tribe, whatever the fuck. We draw arbitrary lines, but they're no different than the chimps, dude.
And the only reason why any of this shit works is because we all agree to not do certain things, or most of us agree. The majority of us agree, and it has to be a pretty overwhelming majority too.
Right.
There's always going to be outliers that land on either side, the pacifists and the massively aggressive psychopaths. Like that's the swing. And there's going to be outliers on both sides. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we are chimps. This stuff all just works because we agree on it. On like a psychological level.
And they do too. That's why their little fucking
societies
troop works.
Yeah, they have their own cultures and everything, man. Like
and their alphas aren't the biggest, strongest,
No.
just like ours aren't.
Right.
It's the whoever's best at maintaining relationships.
Yeah, that's typically how it goes.
To be a good husband, to be a good father, to not end up with a daughter who fucking, let's say you're one of those white dudes who has a fucking white daughter who decides to date and fucking bang a bunch of black dudes just to piss her dad off. She's not attracted to black dudes. It's not an organic thing. She's just doing this because she thinks it'll piss you off. It's because you didn't maintain a good relationship with your fucking daughter. That's the same shit that happens in chimp culture. If you don't maintain a good relationship with your tribe, with your people, with your family, you either get ousted or you get rebelled against.
Sure.
And we do the exact same thing to our own fucking families, dude. Like,
yeah.
It's so bizarre how similar we are. And like you said though, man, people tend to think, oh, we're different, we're above them. No, we're
I think
not. We're part of them.
More than anything, it's just like same thing with the whole like cow farts causing the fucking environmental issues and stuff like that. Like, yeah, industrial farming's a problem, but it's not. There were millions of bison all over this fucking place, coast to coast, deer, antelope. It's not the.
I still maintain that industrial farming arguably is the most humane way any animal dies. It may not be the most humane way for them to live, but animals do not die peacefully amongst family members in the wild. They die from three things: starvation, injury and starvation, disease, or being
predation.
Hunted down and eaten alive by a more aggressive predator.
By something, right?
When we shock them and put a bolt through their head, it is arguably, the word humane is from us, humans. We created an ethical way to kill. That doesn't exist in nature.
Or a perceivably ethical way to kill.
Bears will hold you down and eat you from the stomach out.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Dude, like, what has happened?
With you. I'm with you on all this. Though? I'm with you on all that.
What has happened, though? Because this goes back to what you started off earlier, where we started the podcast, which is just people's perceptions of these weird dichotomies and realities. And it's just like, what the fuck,
Well,
man?
I think the internet has created many, many echo chambers, and people spend a lot of fucking time on there, and they forget what it's like in the physical, real world. Like, they don't look at things the same way. They think that thing that's in front of their face in this, like, weird little echo chamber utopia they have in front of their head is, like, that's where it all starts and ends, and that's just not fucking true. And I think if you look at just look at nature itself and look at the nature of things themselves, you can extrapolate quite a bit of, like you mentioned before, common sense things that I think are very lost in today's just general society across the board. I think a lot of that stuff is lost. And I think that disconnection is a big part of why there's so many people depressed, confused, anxious, mentally ill, physically ill, et cetera, is I think that we just have lost a lot of that connection to common sense.
That anxiety shit's super obvious to me too, because it's like there's an ancient fucking proverb, the
all the Stoics,
idle hands are the devil's plaything or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, which again sounds like some stupid shit about like some extremist version of some religion, but what it just really means is that like boredom leads to irresponsibility.
The one that I heard recently that's probably the best analogy that I could make, and this has context to what we're talking about, is that the devil never shows up wearing horns and a red cape, and it shows up in the form of everything you've ever dreamed of.
Angel,
all of the fucking thing, all of the comforts and desires that you've ever had being met. That's more likely the devil than the thing that you're like looking for, this like glaring lighthouse of evil in in the ocean of your life, and it's not that. It's actually the yacht you're on where you're doing blow off the hooker asshole, and that's the devil. And aiming, and then your aim matters too, right? So if you're aiming for the devil, you're gonna find it, and if you're aiming for good, you're gonna find it.
That's a good one. I like that.
So you've got to point your light the right way, like fucking it's not.
Well, no, it's true though, because
it is. Your aim matters. Like the reasons why we do or the way we get to a certain place, or how, it matters, right? Like it should.
The motivations definitely matter for sure.
Well, incentives matter too. Like that's a big thing that is being discussed all the time now, right? Is like the incentives. What are the incentives to eat healthy and take care of myself, and what are the incentives to continue poisoning yourself relentlessly on a daily basis? Like where does that fucking get you? Into a system of sick care that you proclaim to have problems with and issues with, but yet you're not willing to do it what is necessary on the front side to prevent yourself from falling into said system to begin with.
Right.
And I know it's not that simple for everybody. There's chronic disease, there's genetics to consider.
The thought
all
process
this kind
is
of
simple.
stuff.
The action plan is not simple.
No.
But the thought process is simple, and it goes back to some cheesy Tony Robbins shit, right? You change the way you think, you change the way you act. If you change the way you act, you change the way you behave. No, I said that wrong. If you change the way you think, if you change your thoughts, you change your actions. If you change your actions, you change your life.
Yeah, change your behavior and your habits and everything like that. Yeah, yeah.
And it starts with thoughts. It starts with the way you think about things. If you wake up and you think, oh, I should go jogging today, or I should do push-ups today, or I should play drums today, but it's cold. But my neck hurts. But I did it yesterday.
I mean, we become excuses machines real quick.
Dude, what is that? Why? That's the question.
Well, again,
that's the question I have is why do we have excuses? Why is there any discouragement past survival? Because when it comes to survival, right? When it comes to survival, an animal doesn't question whether they should go find food.
Yeah. I think these are
including us.
Including
us, right?
I think that every time you evolve, so like we evolved this complex consciousness, right? There's always a downside. There's a downside to everything. And that ability, that consciousness that also leads us to the top can take us to the bottom just as quickly, just as easily. I think that's the exchange rate, the sacrifice for that level of consciousness is that it comes with a downside. It comes with a flow. It comes with a frequency. And you can tune in either way. It just depends on where you.
No, I think
again,
you're right.
it's like aiming your light.
No, I think you're right.
Right.
I think you're right because an animal doesn't need a drive to search for food. It's in their instinct, right?
Right. And their thoughts are more abstract in that way. Like it's more of a sensation, an instinct, a drive,
right?
Instead of a complex thought. So it's the exchange rate for the consciousness. It's the sacrifice that we make for having, evolutionarily speaking, for being the apex. And then for there being so many of us at the same time, like that's a hard thing to maintain. And if you think about the way that, I can't remember what it's called, but it's where like rats in New York learn about a way that they're being killed, and now rats in San Francisco know about that.
Quantum entanglement.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of stuff.
In a hive, it's quantum entanglement in like a hive theory, I think is what they call it. Jason, look this up. It's like hive entanglement or quantum entanglement hive theory or something like that.
But again, it speaks to that what we were talking about before, how we think we're so above nature, but like this thing happens with our shit too.
They're more above nature than we are in many ways.
Well,
the specific thing you're talking about is that they've taught certain rats
to like navigate a maze.
To navigate a maze, and somehow through what we're referring to as quantum entanglement and a hive mentality, they are able to discern that information, borderline the only verbs
almost
we
psychically.
have psychically.
Yeah,
that's all, and it's not psychic, but it's the only word we have to describe the philosophy that we're talking about. They can transpose that information across to the West Coast rats, and those West Coast rats aren't carbon copying it.
No,
but those West Coast rats have a measurable, better result in solving the same exact maze with zero said practice.
Yeah.
That is something that doesn't make sense without human levels of internet communication.
Right.
Hey, here's how you solve it. Take the second left turn, take the second right turn, blah, 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 blah. Super easy how we would do that. How does a rat do that when they don't even have a language, let alone
that we know
the ability to communicate through an internet?
Yeah.
Well, apparently they have something going on.
Yeah.
That's what we're referring to.
Yeah. So it's just stuff that we're not aware of yet.
Hive theory in relation to quantum entanglement refers to the speculative idea that coordinated behavior of a hive, like a bee colony or rats in this case, could potentially be explained by the principles of quantum entanglement, whereas individual members of the hive are somehow linked at a quantum level, allowing for seemingly instantaneous communication and coordinated action even when separated by distance.
Yep. So to think that that's
great job, Jason.
To think that that's not happening with us as well, to some degree, at least, right, is kind of ignorant, and that's that whole like we're above nature kind of thing.
Stellar
idea.
Look up, by the way.
And you know, I think that is a big reason why we see as like mental health problems go up. Like everybody,
right?
You know, this kind of thing. So
it seems super obvious to me what's happening. Again, it's been figured out. It was figured out 1,000 years ago.
It's
an algorithm. We love algorithms nowadays.
I
right?
guess we do.
So let's do some math here. Bad diet, poor exercise, too much sedentary activity. And what I mean by sedentary activity is not relaxing. I mean it's sitting in a fucking chair. So literally standing is more healthy than sitting.
Yes, very much so.
Right?
Sitting.
So like if you have to work 8 hours a day at a computer, stand for 3 of those hours.
At least, yeah.
Huge difference on your mental health.
Yep.
Standing versus sitting. Dramatic. Proven. All of this, none of this is speculation. It's documented.
Yep.
We've known this for thousands of years. Science has backed this up in the last 20 to 30.
Yep.
Bad diet, sedentary activity, lack of social family engagement, physical touch.
Yep.
Which that's what really sucks is people who have no like incels, super awkward guys.
I mean, incels are one
really
thing, but lonely
girls,
people, like
really
just
fat girls who just like no dude wants to like cuddle with them. Like, dude, do you know how good cuddling is for your mental fucking health? Dude?
Yeah, it's really good. Oxytocin exchange
It's
and all
huge,
that stuff is
dude.
massive.
Like the studies on babies not being touched versus babies that are touched. Like a baby will literally die if it's not touched.
I mean, loneliness is fucking terrible in general, and not having the access to physical other human touch. Like that's
like
just
a baby
just
will
the way
literally
a hug
die.
The way a hug will bring you back to life, like from a good friend or a family member, or even just a total stranger in a certain moment.
Feeling like you're part of something bigger than yourself. This is why sports are so popular.
Sure.
Dude, sports, NFL football saved me from suicide.
Damn.
This sounds crazy.
No.
So, girl broke up with me, devastated. Barely able to get out of work. Literally, like, planning my suicide on the way to work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I'm 18. I can buy a gun. What kind of gun do I want? And all of a sudden, I hear over the news, Brett Favre is signed with the Minnesota Vikings. And I was like, wait, what? Like, Brett Favre is going to be a Minnesota Viking? I'm like, wait, what? It was so intriguing. It was so distracting.
I got to stick around for this.
No, it wasn't that. That's dramatic. That's some dramatic bullshit. But it was so like, wait, what? Like, holy fuck, Brett Favre is with the fucking Vikings? And like a couple months later, and I've said this on the podcast multiple times, one of the things about sports and football that saved me from all of these moments, because it happened more than once, but it was that I could plan every year that September 1st was ending preseason and beginning regular season football. It was something that was more reliable than the fucking election at this point for me, because the election only happens 4 years, right? My birthday happens once a year, but these are like reoccurring events that are like gonna happen. And one year when I was in my deepest, darkest moment, something was intriguing enough to distract me from a problem.
Sure.
And just give me a breather.
Yeah, something else to think about.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, it can be valuable. Hobbies are huge. Like following your purpose, following what you really want to do, or finding what you want to do, or even just exploring it.
And this brings me to my final thing. Having a problem to solve.
Yeah.
A tackleable problem. So for me, since I love football, a problem to solve, which was, how does Brett Favre help the Vikings? I started doing sports math in my head. Well, he's a 94 in Madden, right? That brings up the it just all of a sudden I started extrapolating my brain got activated, and I started doing all of these things that I couldn't do for 4, 5, 6, 7 days because I was in this dark space.
Yeah.
So we can call it a hobby, we can call it a distraction, we can do it, but what it really was mental stimulation.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
For some guys it's math, for some guys it's physics, whatever. But it was one spark plug that got the cycle started for me.
Sure.
And then I was excited about football. And then I was like able to fucking wake up and not think about this girl.
Yeah.
And then I was able to go, hey, you know what? I'm fucking starting to get a little tired. Maybe I should fucking start jogging again, because I was a big cardio guy, you know, being a lead singer at the time. And so I'm like, hey, you know what? I got to start jogging again, man, because I'm noticing I'm getting a little, now I got the fucking, that thing. And then I'm like, man, when I'm jogging, I'm getting real tired halfway through my 2 mile jog. Maybe I should start fucking worrying about what I'm eating again.
Yeah.
And so the same way you end up in the darkness is the same way you come out of the darkness in reverse. You got to get one healthy thing going. And sometimes it's nothing more than a distraction.
Yeah. And
what time is it? I got to piss.
Yeah.
Oh, we got another. You down to go for another half hour? Or
yeah,
you want to wrap it up?
No, I'm good for a half hour.
A half hour, 45 minutes. Let's
bathroom break it real quick.
Yeah, let's bathroom break real quick. You want to go first, or should I go?
I'll go first. Yeah,
you go first.
Yep.
So, Jason, as he's going to the bathroom, what are your comments, concerns, questions that you would like us to address? And is there anything in chat, by the way? Are we live? Have we verified that we're actually live, dude? We're good. You've seen the stream going. I've gotten 0 Thursday Night Football updates from you, by the way, which I'm very disappointed by. I know he's got 2.4 points. I just looked. Okay, you don't have a microphone. God damn it, we got to get you guys a mic back there. Just sit down for 2 seconds then. Fuck. I'm going to punch you in the dick. Good. That's not true. Listeners, if there's anybody in chat, I don't even know what they're...
All right, so I want to hit you with my idea at this moment.
Okay, hurry up then, because I got to piss.
Okay. I want to use myself as the example to prove this conversation right.
Okay, so you want to do a body transformation thing?
That's what I started in April of 2022.
Okay.
I am the living example.
All right, he's back. Okay, so Jason proposed an idea while you were gone. So what he wants to try to do is use himself as the living example of our conversation. So he wants to try to do a body transformation thing, basically, is what he's saying.
Sure.
Did I understand that correctly?
Like a body composition challenge kind of thing, like how much body fat you can lose kind of deal?
Or even just like a, hey, here's where I'm at. Even if he only loses 12 pounds.
Just by making like the changes that I mentioned or whatever?
But like we kind of talked about this. Maybe his weight doesn't change, but suddenly he's a fucking bodybuilder, right?
Sure.
So maybe he's the same weight, but now he's jacked and fucking super healthy, but his life is more successful.
Absolutely, yeah.
So maybe not just a straight body transfer, because that I feel like body transformations are super limited and cliche, because it's like you said, it's like
when you
fat percentage.
Well, when you take on a challenge like that.
Hold on. You finish what you...
Yeah, go ahead.
You finish what you were trying to say? Okay, the plan became very clear tonight based on this conversation, how, not what, how you're going to do it, okay? And... your journey.
Yeah, I mean,
weird time for me to burp.
That was pretty perfect, actually.
So he asked. So Jason, for the listeners who can't hear him on the mic, Jason asking, so would you be willing to train Jason?
Yeah,
of course he would be.
Yeah, of course. Would you be willing to record? Yeah, we would document everything.
Yeah, and we'll turn it into content. We can mutually share the content for all three of us. He's got his thing. We can use it for mine. You can use it for yours. We'll all chop it up and edit it, and we can use it for marketing and the whole deal.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Sure.
Okay, you guys keep talking. Jason, come take my spot. I got to piss. Jesus Christ. Dude, I've had to piss for like 35 minutes.
I actually still have to finish peeing, but I got so I was
did
like
that the first time.
I was sitting there like, oh my God, I have to be done with this shit now. Like I just got to cut it off.
Okay, so I'm going to start from April 22nd, 2022. I posted my day one photo going back to the gym on Twitter, and it went viral.
Okay.
I have got around 13,000 followers.
Sick.
I have gone through a very devastating mental journey, and I'm out of balance.
Yeah.
My mental, physical, and financial health are all out of order, and I'm exactly the person you are talking about. I was 538 pounds.
Damn.
I died in 2011 for 7 minutes. I had a stroke from a blood clot because I was slowly killing myself with food because I was in what I felt was a no way out situation in my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I was slowly killing myself with food. I was so depressed and I was so defeated that death felt like the way out.
Yeah.
I was just too chicken to do it any other way.
Sure.
I was angry for around 6 to 8 months after I died and was brought back. Like, I'm like, you fuckers, why'd you do this? I had my way out.
Yeah.
And it's horrible to say that right now. And I apologize, Mom. That's how I felt at the time. And Mom doesn't know a lot of this. This is stuff that's coming out. But I'm ready to tell my full story. And I would like for you two to be a part of that story. And I would like to show my story to the world, to show people that somebody who is at absolute rock bottom, who just had his car repossessed, had to have a buddy hook up a cell phone for him. I'm on government assistance. I'm in therapy. And okay. Like I was saying, I'm in therapy.
Yep.
And I want to prove to the world, let me rephrase that. That's not accurate. I want to prove to myself
Yep.
that I can go from absolute rock bottom to reach my goals.
Yeah.
And I also want to show the world what one person can do when they look in the mirror and they have that really ugly conversation with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got a buddy like Jared who just like looks you dead in the eye and is like, dude, get your shit together.
I did not say this. This is his version of this conversation.
Okay.
This is not how I talk to people. I used to. I do not anymore.
Okay, let's clarify what that means.
I was way more gentle than this.
He is correct. He was. It's what I heard in my head, though.
Correct.
It's
You're
not
right.
the words he used. So,
but it's kind of the same thing that you have. It's personal accountability. It's just like, hey, man, like, here's what you're trying to accomplish. Here's what you're doing that's helping you not accomplish those things.
Yeah, here's how you're self-sabotaging.
And he interpreted that as just a very manly, blunt, like, get your shit together. Definitely not what I fucking said. In fact, not even close.
It's actually okay that you took it like that, though. It's a good way.
That's what I was trying to say.
That way.
I just had to defend myself because, like, I have a big enough reputation for being an asshole. I don't need anybody contributing to that at all anymore because I'm really trying to soften my edges, you guys. I'm really trying to soften my edges.
Okay, after this conversation, your reputation is going to change. At least for one person, it's going to change, okay?
Oh, well, at least I convinced my producer I'm not an asshole.
No, actually, you
got
were
one,
exactly
buddy.
what your producer
I'm
needed.
kidding. I'm just trying to be funny, you guys. Fuck it. We're doing a fucking podcast. This is public, you guys.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I'm good. I think it's all funny.
So
yeah, go ahead.
So actually, Jared's part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Last week podcast we had Lazarus on, and we were talking about shadow work, which is something that I personally do. And this gets into the philosophical theories of using LSD and what it can potentially do. And what it did was it unlocked something in me that I didn't know was there. It's allowed me to get to the root cause of why I keep going through this cycle where I'll get successful and then everything will crash. And I'm starting to figure out the roadblocks that are causing these issues.
Mm-hmm.
And because of this, now I'm starting to be able to resolve these issues. And what I want to be able to do is tell my story through video, and however else we decide. And if this story helps one person, to me, that's a success.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was worth everything that I went through to help even one person.
Yeah.
a seed that was dropped on me by Tim Pool was, it's not about changing the politics, it's about changing the culture. I understand what that means. I'm going to show you my personal culture, and I'm going to let you decide if that's right for you. I'm the guy that's going to drop seeds for other people to sprout. Like Jared dropped 100 seeds in my head recently.
Don't say it like that.
And they've sprouted.
Don't make it gay.
Dude, come on, man. You're killing my vibe, homie. I've been working
I'm
on
with
this.
you. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Keep them coming.
So, my girlfriend's been dropping seeds for a while. Shout out to my girl, Rach. Love you, girl. My buddy, Ricky, and his wife, Kimber, we were over there last night, and he was dropping seeds that have sprouted recently. I hang out with a buddy in Michigan. His name's Zach Goldman. He's got a group going called The Men's Life, and I'm doing some stuff with him.
Cool.
And he's dropped some seeds. And it all comes down to this. The first thing I have to do is get organized. So I'm working on cleaning the house. I'm too embarrassed to take pictures the way the house looks, even though I know I should.
Bring it full circle, buddy.
So the whole point is I want to document this whole journey, and I want you two to be a part of it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, of course we'll be a part of it, dude.
Yeah. Yep, be happy to.
It's not a question, man.
I mean, we can just talk afterwards, and we
Yeah.
can figure out how to put things in place that make sense for the both of us and everything. But I'd be happy to help you, for sure.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yep.
I had to take the shot. It just really became clear to me sitting
No,
behind the desk.
You're exactly the type of person I would
Eric, pull
definitely
that mic
want
up
to.
towards you.
You're definitely
you
the type of person, and in the position that where I think that we could create some incredible results for you that will hopefully last a really long time, and will just help you better your life across the board. You know, when you work with a qualified coach, or you decide to put investment into education, into knowing something that you don't currently know, everything, not just your health, should get better. You know, like my clients don't just see an improvement in their like physical appearance or the way they feel about themselves. They see improvements in their interpersonal relationships. They see benefit in their, like you mentioned, their financial space inside. And I'm not teaching them anything financially or whatever, but like the personal training, the part that keeps getting missed all the time is the personal element of it, right? So like you have to be able to be good at listening and making connections. And a big part of my job is just doing this, just going like, it's like shutting the fuck up is a big part of my job, and just listening to what my clients have to say, and then taking that and helping them figure out what works best for them. Because what works best for me to stay disciplined and on point isn't going to be the same shit that works for you. And I have to be okay with that as a coach, and I have to trust you, and you have to trust me. So there's this thing that has to happen here. You have to get real close, and I get all up in my client's business. Like I get all in there. Like, if you work with me, you're not just paying to work with a trainer, because a trainer anybody can give you a fucking workout that's going to be hard to do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to what you need, and we're going to develop a program around yourself and your needs and these things that you mentioned. And we're going to help you figure out how to make health, fitness, wellness fit in your life, not anything that I have preconceived in my head. You're going to tell me what you need. I'm going to help you find it. That's basically the long and short of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My personal philosophy is this: you have to be ready to change.
Yeah, you got to be open to it first.
Right. And what I've done is shattered my whole worldview, and I'm thinking in a new way where everything is asking questions. I want to understand how to do it, and I want to understand why. Those are my two questions foundation right now that I'm building.
I will tell you though, don't be afraid to fuck up. Cause
oh yeah, that's a big part of it.
I've learned this lesson.
But where I'm going with this is this idea of like, well, I wanna learn. I want somebody to tell me, can be paralytic. Meaning like most of learning is fucking up. Meaning you just gotta like trailblaze.
Yep.
And then go, oh, that didn't work. Because if you're 100% dependent on a coach showing you the right way to do things, I'm positive you'll never learn everything.
Well, that's
you can't. And I'm speaking from this because you're a football guy like me. If every player depended on their coaches to tell them how to play football, you would never have a single Hall of Fame football player of all time.
Right, because they all did something unique to themselves.
Correct.
You are
at
correct.
Some point in time, every single football player goes, this coach doesn't know what he's talking about. I see it this way. I'm going to take this fucking chance. And then he's proven right. And then coaches go, oh, I never thought of that. And then they teach your idea to everybody else. So failure is one of the most important things in the journey you're trying to take. So as much as I want to encourage you on that, to take advice and to seek coaching, I also want to encourage you. There is no but here. I also want to encourage you to take your own chances, to take your own leap of faith, to be creative, to not depend on everybody else to tell you how to make a good decision or to be disciplined or to organize your day. Sometimes it takes you evaluating your own self because only you can be honest with yourself. You can't always be honest with him or with me, right? So sometimes we depend on our coaches or our teachers to interpret our bullshit and speak to us and call, like you said, call me out on my bullshit, get your shit together. I didn't fucking say that. You interpreted that.
Correct.
You spoke to yourself through my fucking words. All I fucking did was told you some other random shit, which is hilarious because we had this conversation where I was like, if you were ever going to pull a get your shit moment together out of something I told you, it would have been the conversation we had 2 weeks before that. Not the fucking conversation you pulled it out of.
That was the seed.
But you still got it. But you still got it. And it was because you were speaking to yourself in some random language I used to communicate some other fucking point landed with you. Do you see what I'm saying?
Because you dropped that seed.
And I think this matters in your profession as well.
Yeah.
In that fitness, you might be giving somebody and I'm going to be dumb, you might be giving somebody a lesson on how to do a perfect curl.
Sure.
And for some fucking reason, the way you explain it, he goes, I'm not raising my kid the right way.
Yeah. I get the.
And you're like, that's not what I fucking said.
I said you turn your pinky in at the top.
And he's like, yeah, I'm too critical about my kid's math results. And you're like, where the fuck did you make that connection? That's his own creativity because he was in a free flow state.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where
thoughts are just coming in.
Right,
just processing
and this goes
shit.
back to that ancient Plato.
Meditative and stuff like that.
You get that physical and the mental comes with it, and vice versa. You stimulate the mental, suddenly you want to be physical.
You're clearing the way.
I think these things are unanimous, like they're synonymous almost.
Yeah. They are. And
symbiotic, that's
symbiotic, yeah. And one of the ways that we help with that whole thing and not becoming like kind of alleviating some of that possible like codependency is that we do 2 workouts a week with our clients in the gym that
I need
are
you
an
to
hour
fix the overhead cam.
that are an hour long.
Okay.
The overhead cam is frozen.
That's not good.
And then we make our clients do 2 workouts a week at least without us. And they have to report the results, record the results, and we get videos on form and then what happens is they think they're doing something the right way. And then they come in and we check them.
If you can't fix it, if you're not comfortable with it, then don't touch it.
And then we check them on it.
I don't think you did. Go double check it.
We check them on it, and they go, or we show them. We do that movement in our in-person sessions the next time around, and then we figure little things out. They've tried to do it on their own. They think they've got it.
No, main overhead 2 isn't working. See how it's frozen?
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
So I need you to go pick that source.
Yeah.
So do you see how in sources there to the right in the next column, you see how it says main overhead cam 2? Yep, click that. Yep. And then device. Up at top, come on. Yep. Pick something else. And go back to it. Nope, not that
next one down.
That one.
Yep.
Hit okay, there you go.
And we're back.
There you go.
There it is. Look at that. Yep.
That's your job. You just earned your paycheck, buddy. I'm very proud of you, Jason. You've done a great job tonight.
Thank you.
But yeah, so
we got to get that mic over there so you can stay over there.
We have the. Oh, you
You're
can,
fine.
you can chill right there for right
sit
now.
Down. I'm
hey,
saying
sit down. Yeah,
I'm
sit
saying
down.
we
You're
have
good.
to do this in the future so you can be part of the conversation from over there.
We're all learning together.
Because that's your job.
Right.
Right? I don't have a problem with you being on the podcast. What I'm saying is we got to get the mic over there so you can do your job and be on the podcast.
Right. This isn't a normal moment.
This pop filter feels good on my beard.
It
kind of does, doesn't it?
Isn't it weird?
Feeling like a weirdo, like I keep catching
this
myself.
is me.
I know exactly. I do it all the fucking time, dude. I do it all the time.
Anyway, what I was
Stop having fun, Eric.
I know.
Be more
what
serious,
I was,
you piece of shit.
What I was mentioning was that we put those like checks and balances in our whole system that we work through people with, and everybody's program looks a little different. Like it's all very customized and individualized and everything like that. But yeah, we would have accountabilities, accountability nation, so to speak. Put into that whole thing, and yeah, we keep people on point that way. Yeah.
You basically
now let's talk about the juice. So, no, I'm just kidding.
I just want to say one thing.
Sure.
You two just explained exactly everything that I've been putting together in my head for the last week since we had our conversation.
I think a lot of people feel that way, though, and that's what I've been kind of trying to figure out through the course of this podcast over, technically 4 years, even though we took that break, which is you were one of those very first podcasts, and we were planting the seeds of this conversation back then, which is like you and I are both coming from a place of not elite success, right?
No,
we were both very good musicians. Seriously, let's try to reference that very first podcast for a second.
Yeah.
From my best memory, was you and I basically weren't friends yet. We had barely known each other at all.
Yep.
We had one major interaction, which was I was talking about my band, my podcast, and a website. You were working for some random company, and I'm doing this fast on purpose. Him and I had a business meeting with his boss, and when we had the podcast, Eric was like, dude, I never disliked you. I never didn't respect you. But I never had any idea that you were that smart or that business savvy or that forward thinking until we had that meeting with my boss that day. And when you laid out your whole plan and your vision, it was like, oh, this is a guy who thinks. Mm-hmm. Whereas every observation he had of me before that was an obnoxious, egotistical fucking
buffoon.
Perfect word.
Just throw that out there.
But he also didn't realize I was playing a character in public. Like he didn't realize.
I had no context for anything really at all.
But
just going off my presumptions.
But this is the importance of that very first conversation. And same thing with me. I was like, well, here's the thing is I thought you were the opposite side of the same fucking coin. You took yourself too seriously. You were trying to be too cool. You and Dan Copy. I've talked to both of you on the podcast about this. You guys were always trying to be too serious and too cool, and you were worried about looking silly or goofy or stupid or naive or weak. It was the tough guys, fucking metal. But we found this random common ground in what I would call vision, creativity, the future. And then we manifested that in two very different ways. And when we came together on that first podcast, it was funny because somebody reached out and they were like, that first podcast, I like you and Eric now, but that first one, it was like you two just jerking each other off for 3 hours.
I have to go back and watch it.
And I was like,
I was actually really mentally ill still when that podcast, we did that. So like, I don't know how much I really want to go back and read it.
It was super good. It was actually a great podcast. It was actually a great podcast, but it was one of those things where it was like, no, we're circling the drain here. We're both realizing we're circling the drain. We're going to fix it. We're going to create our own solutions. And then we came back together like 2 or 3 years later. We did that very first podcast
Next
together.
one, yeah.
No, I'm talking about the very first podcast.
Yeah, you're right.
And it was like, hey, you're doing something super cool. And he's like, you're doing something super cool. And we took some weird version of inspiration from each other. And then that's why I keep having Eric on. That's why Eric keeps coming on, because it's not about what we're saying or doing at that moment. it's about the observation of at least for me, it's about the observation of the journey and where we've come along.
Yeah. At this point, it's got to be that.
It's not even that far. It's only a few years.
Yeah.
But, man, we've both come so far.
I'm sure if you go watch that first podcast and then you watch the second, you can probably see a progression of like a person or two people becoming more confident and like
your confidence is drastically different.
I hope so, because I literally, we talked about this at that Skyway show, how I've really struggled with imposter syndrome a bunch, like a whole lot, in this whole process, and I've
my confidence has changed. Yours has grown.
Well, I appreciate that.
Like you're just becoming a better, more confident version of you. I've had to refine and sculpt the edges and soften and be more subtle and considerate. So it's two different paths, which it always has been.
Yeah.
But man, like our friendship is really like fostered, and it's become very genuine and organic.
Yeah, it's grown naturally.
And it's not one of those things that's forced because we love the same music and we're both a fan of the same sports team. It's just like I said, it's like two opposite sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
But like absolutely being tumble dried through the same universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, yeah, dude, this is still my guy. And the longer I know you, the more I love you, the more I respect you, dude.
Odd collisions and interactions across time, for sure.
So I want to make this statement.
That was an absurd analogy, but I hope that tracked across the conversation we've had all night.
It did.
It may not for all the listeners, but somebody's going to get it, and they're going to be like, that was my favorite podcast.
So
it always I always get one message. They're like that. Every podcast I've gotten, I get a random message from somebody, and they're like, that was my favorite podcast.
Nice.
Every single one. Some random person I've never heard from, they're like, that was my favorite podcast.
That's a good mission.
Okay, I want to be able to clip this, so
yeah.
I am you.
So clip it. Nothing stopping you.
Rip him and clip him, you son of a bitch.
Rip him and clip him. Do you have any final questions, Jason? Specifically?
He was going to go ahead and make your point. You're going to make
I want to make a statement.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now where I sit, I'm you 4 years ago.
Sure.
Right now where I sit, I'm doing the work that you have done.
Sure. Okay. Yep.
So in a sense, both of you have been put in my life, and I feel like both of you have a sense of a mentor role for me, even though I'm older than both of you. I'm 46. Mentally speaking, I'm 15 years old.
I've been there.
So
I actually understand exactly what you meant by that.
Yeah.
It's called arrested development for any of the listeners that don't. It's called arrested development. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So all those things where you're like, dude, you're just weird. And I embrace
I've never
that.
said that out loud.
It's
Stop putting words in my mouth, dude. We're on the fucking internet. If you're gonna make accusations, make them accurate, dude.
Okay,
you can't keep fucking saying shit I didn't fucking say, bro. There's plenty of shit I did say. Quote those things.
They're terrible too.
Let me clarify.
But at least be accurate, bro.
Let me clarify. So
I've never called you weird. Not fucking once have those words left my mouth, dude.
Let me rephrase. So what it was, we were talking about some of the content that I'm doing, and you're like, dude, that's just kind of fucking weird. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm fucking weird.
I get your point. I don't think I said that, but I get your point.
All right, weird's cool.
Yeah, so
because that's why I don't say that, because I don't think weird is a bad thing.
No, weird's good.
Right. And I didn't understand it in that context at that moment, but now I understand what you're actually saying.
This is the same thing, just for the listeners, though. This is the same thing of him being like, and we talked, and you were basically like, get your shit together. I didn't say that.
Correct.
This is your interpretation of what I said.
This is my interpretation.
I probably said it's really unique and like it's not normal, and that could be a good thing if you're trying to do it that way. That sounds more like how I would have given that criticism. And then you're like, you said it's fucking weird. Like, that just doesn't sound like me, dude.
No, because it wasn't, and that was unfair of me.
Version.
That was unfair of me on that aspect. But the reality is this: while I was under the influence and on my journey, I heard this dude's voice in my head all night, and I heard my buddy Scotty.
Shout out to Scotty.
Shout out to Scotty Ball. Love you, brother. Mercy, going to be dropping on the radio in January. But like the different things I heard in my head, and it's like I was successful losing weight. I've already lost 200 pounds. I've put some of that weight back on, realistically about 40, and that was...
When you hear this, what are your immediate follow-up questions? I lost weight and then gained it back. What are your...
Pretty normal.
No. What are your follow-up questions? Like, you go, okay.
Well, how did you lose the bulk of the weight? You know, what worked, what didn't? You know, I'd like to know that.
How does your thought process work? So bring me through this interview process. I want to see like how you deal with a client. So he lost 200 pounds, gained it back. What is your follow-up question?
Well, you only gained 40 back or whatever. And while that might seem like a back step or whatever, you got to look at the percentages. You're doing great. And over how much time?
So from 2011 to about 2017, I fluctuated between 538 and 484 pounds.
Okay.
So from
430 to 530?
It's 530 to 480, somewhere in there.
Why are we doing this in reverse? So 480 to 530?
So at my heaviest, I was 538 pounds.
Okay.
And I got down...
That's why you guys do it in reverse. Got it. Okay.
484 pounds.
Okay.
And I fluctuated between...
So that's like a 50-pound swing.
Correct. In 2017, when I walked out on my marriage, I lost all the way down to about 440 pounds, and my sleep apnea started getting remarkably better.
Yep. So that's another 60 pounds. So you're down 110 right now.
Correct.
Yep.
So 2018, I really started taking it serious. And from 2018 into when the pandemic hit, I was in the gym 6 days a week. Mm-hmm. I was cranking. I was at 376 pounds when Governor Walz told me that I couldn't go into a gym because taking care of my health was selfish to other people.
So this was the moment you left the Communist Party.
Actually, this is the moment
dude,
I should have left Metro
at least a
Transit.
Little bit funny, dude. Come on, it's a fucking podcast.
Yeah,
dude, I was a Metro Transit bus driver at this time.
Okay,
it's either that or we're gonna start crying.
No,
there's only two ways we can do this podcast. We either go super serious and get like teary-eyed, or I try to make bad jokes. Like, you make your fucking choice, guys.
Either way, it's fascinating to hear someone else's story. So
we've heard this story 1,000 times online. It's more interesting to hear this from an actual person who lived it versus an anecdote you read in some random person's internet post where you're not sure if it's a fucking bot or not.
Right.
So that's why I'm like so silent and listening to this. I'm only trying to break the tension because we need a little bit of humor here.
Yeah, levity's good. But so you got down to in the 380s, 370s when the pandemic
376,
hit?
which was the lowest weight I had been in this century.
Right.
So
then what?
I know, dude.
So what did you do?
You did that on purpose.
Yes,
you said
I did.
Century on purpose.
I did.
Fuck.
What did you do? What did you do then during the pandemic? What happened? Because now you can't go to the gym. So what changed then?
So what was happening up until July 4th of 2020? I was walking and at least doing that and still moderately maintaining my diet.
Yep.
Till July 4th of 2020, when I was driving Owl Route, somebody threw a firework in my driver's window.
Holy shit!
And
what size firework?
It was at least an M100.
Jesus.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, they
M80 is a quarter stick of dynamite. If I remember right. For anybody listeners, I always feel like I'm patronizing you guys. When I do this, I'm talking to them as well.
Sure.
They're a part of this as much as we are. So for people that don't understand the context of this is why I asked how big of a firework. Because an M80, if I remember right, is a quarter stick of dynamite.
Correct.
So an M100 is about a third of a stick of dynamite. Just
Correct.
less.
Yeah,
just less.
Slightly less, yeah.
But it's a big fucking explosion.
That's a big boom to get surprised. Yeah.
Inside a contained environment, like a container,
if I would have had my driver's door closed, I would have...
You'd probably be deaf.
I would probably have more brain damage than I already do. I have a TBI from when I died in 2011. So, I probably would have more brain damage.
You'd probably be deaf if that door would.
Oh, yeah.
But go on.
I do have inner ear damage that'll never go away. And on top of it, I got PTSD from that.
Well, don't say never, because a lot of shit's happening with stem cells. So
That's true. That's true. I like that. I like that positive attitude. I'm a positivity guy. So,
I love you, buddy.
I love you too, bro.
Finish your story.
So, that really negatively impacted me, and that's when my mental health and my physical health went out of alignment, and then my financial health started to suffer as well. And then my Metro Transit career got really, really difficult on me because they wanted to medically disqualify me because I missed all this time at work from an incident that happened while I was working.
Right. So a big snowball effect, right? And I think the only thing you can control in that scenario, so going back to what we talked about before he even got here, is what are the 3 arrows? What are what are you good at? What do you want to do? What are the opportunities in front of you, right? So again, so the key here is, what are the opportunities in front of you? Meaning, what can you control? The one thing you control in this triad is your physical health. You can't control your mental health immediately. Like, you can't fix your brain damage. You can't fix all the things. But what you can do that will help those things is you can immediately start controlling your physical health, whether it's your diet or your exercise routine. Those are points of action that you can actually
your environment too.
With,
yeah, of course.
Right? You can't control, and I'm not saying this is you, Jason, but for the person who's listening to you, you can't control your bitchy girlfriend. You can't control your shitty boss. You can't control your horrible, stressful drive to work, right? But what you can control is whether you go jogging for 40 minutes before you go to work, which will make it way easier to deal with your bitchy boss or your cunty girlfriend or your boyfriend or your shitty drive. Like, that's the actionable part of what you're talking about. And I think the first steps to getting this,
the mindset
to get this whole thing back on track is to actionable. What can we do? The first aspects is what you physically do day to day.
Yeah.
Because you have a direct control over that. Even if you can't afford a gym membership, you can do a push-up. And this is what I talk to you about, is like, okay, I get it. I couldn't do 10 push-ups the first time I decided. I said I'm going to do 100 push-ups every day. I couldn't do 10. But I did 5, and then I did 8, and now I can do 100.
Yeah,
they're in sets of 25, but I can do 100 every morning. I decide to do them if my neck's not killing me. If I can get through 25, I get to 100. If I can't get through 25, it's because of a neck thing that's going on.
Sure.
That's a different deal for me. I got to figure that out. But if I can get to any push-ups, which to me is now 25, it would have been 5. If I can get to 1 in this metaphor, then I can get to 5. If I can get to 5, I can get to 20. If I can get to 20, I can get to 100.
And if you can't get to 1, you can take a walk.
Right.
You know? Like,
exactly.
That's the thing.
If you can't jog a quarter mile, you can jog a 1/10 of a mile.
The thing that I like to tell clients a lot of times is that before you lose
it out.
Before you lose a pound, you have to lose a half a pound. Before you lose a half a pound, you got to lose a quarter pound. It's literally just taking every day as it comes.
Before you
showing up, being consistent.
Oh, you know what? That sounds a lot like, Eric. Before you can run, you gotta walk.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's almost like we're talking about babies.
Yeah.
It's so strange how all this ancient wisdom is still fucking true in 2024.
Yeah, nothing really changes.
What is wrong with us, dude?
So you have to
overcomplicating it.
What is wrong with us?
Just overcomplicating it, overthinking it.
Every one of us already knows all this shit. Why do I even need an Eric to explain to me the nuances of shit I already fucking know? Why does he need a Jared to explain to him philosophies he already fucking knows? Why does his kid need a fucking Jason? Sorry, I fucking had to swallow there. That sounded like I didn't know your name for a second. Why does his kid need a Jason to tell him being mean to kids is wrong in school? Like, what the fuck is wrong with people that we even need to be taught anything? What is going on?
I don't think you know
what it
is.
What
is nature?
You know what it is?
It's so weird, dude.
It's a cultural
issue. I feel
issue.
like I'm trying to get too deep. At the same time, I'm asking a very genuine and
I have the
question.
answer, though. I figured this out. This is a cultural issue that we deal with.
I don't think it is. I think it's a human nature thing. The foundation of this is the chimp thing.
The foundation is this.
Why do we need to be taught? Why can't we just learn on our own?
I think it
because
really,
we don't have self-accountability. It's been bred out of us. It's been pushed out of us in the culture.
Okay.
It's countercultural to say accountability nation. It's countercultural to say I want to be accountable for my actions. It's unacceptable to say things like I want to live by my principles, not by some arbitrary rules that somebody doesn't know me thinks that I should live by. None of these things make any logical sense whatsoever. So what I figured out is this is the difference between intention. So I look at everything from this one aspect. Something is either a tool or a weapon. The access is intent. And what your intention is what is going to move the needle to what direction. It's my interpretation of the theory of yin yang. I'm actually going to get a tattoo of this tomorrow.
You're going to get a yin yang tattoo?
Yes, I am.
That's deep, bro. I'm just fucking with you, man.
Hey,
sorry, dude.
I mean,
I'm fucking with you, dude. Finish your story. Jesus Christ.
No, yin and yang.
Yeah. So I'm
nothing to do with Christ. That's Buddhist Taoism.
Well, I am a spiritual person.
Sure.
I don't prescribe to a religion, organized religion, because organized religion to me is the other side of the coin in the culture war. It's the cult of we don't believe in God, or we have whatever issue with God. And then we have the people on the other side that like, we want to live our life by the rules of God. And it's like, well, here's the first fundamental issue. They're all trying to legislate their version of morality when the answer is, as long as we don't aggress upon someone else, they shouldn't aggress upon us. So that's a core fundamental of mine.
Fine, but that's not really what we're talking about. What we're talking about is us aggressing upon ourselves.
That's
self-abusing.
Correct. Okay.
I think
so
to Jason's point, it's about
that.
the self-abuse comes more from the systems that we exist within and
right.
the devaluing of the individual.
Correct.
More to ideological standards.
Right, because that's what collectivism is. It's giving yourself to the collective.
Right.
Where for me, I understand
and
that.
I'm not saying you're wrong when I jumped in there.
Right.
I'm not
no,
saying you're wrong.
You're fine. And I like that you push back because I want people to do that. If my theories are sound, I should be able to defend them.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not even attacking your theory.
No, you're not.
Amending it.
Right.
I'm amending it. It's
there we go.
The real issue of what we're talking about is not about how we treat each other. That's not the moral of tonight's theme. That's not the theme of tonight's discussion. The theme of tonight's discussion is how we treat ourselves.
Right, and I'm getting to that.
And how much we respect ourselves. How much we respect. Specifically, tonight has been about our bodies. Some of our previous conversations have been about our minds and about the balance in between.
Sure.
Right? But tonight has been specifically about the respect we treat our bodies and our habits.
Right.
Right.
In our
what I'm
So I don't want to get too abstract and too distracted with anything spiritual on any, because we got to eventually wrap this up, right? So we got to stay on theme and on point so we can have a coherent fucking message at the end of the night, which is in a good podcast, you can kind of wrap it up with a vibe, right?
Right.
So the vibe tonight is obviously some self-accountability.
Correct.
Obviously some self-motivation.
Yes.
Obviously some fucking discipline.
Correct.
But at the end of the day, it's not overcomplicating it. It's not taking something very simple, which is
discipline
don't eat
equals
sugar
freedom
before fucking X in the morning, or don't fucking bombard your body with sugar early in the whatever, right? Don't over fucking complicate it, right? Like you know the answer, we know the answer, society knows the answer, your body knows the answer, your brain knows the answer, your gut knows the answer. Fucking make common sense decisions and stick to them and be routine.
Be reasonable.
Correct.
Be reasonable.
Be reasonable in your endeavors. Logic, yes.
I think through.
And you already know this. The proverbial you, the literal you fucking know this. It's in your bones. It's in your fucking DNA.
We were talking about
it's
this.
Literally
instinct,
in your DNA.
Survival of the fittest. Instinct.
I want to wrap this up with a final fun conversation. So, did you know that the reason kids hate vegetables is it's a biological survival mechanism, because kids are too stupid to know what things not to eat. So children, babies have a higher the dumb way to explain it is a taste bud response to bitterness, which is more common in greens, aka vegetables, which prevents children from eating shit that will fucking kill them in the wild. Walking up to a tree and eating a leaf. Like, kids are naturally, biologically, advantageously predisposed to avoid eating things that are green and quote-unquote vegetables, because there's a lot of them that'll fucking kill you.
There are a lot of vegetables
Did you guys know this?
that have defense
This is
mechanisms
brand
and
new
chemicals in
science.
it.
This is super brand new science that is like
I'm
literally
fascinated.
Like
I'm
less
honestly
than a year
fascinated.
old, less than they go, "Oh, this is why kids hate vegetables." And this is why your taste buds change over time.
That's absolutely true. That does have that the taste buds changing over time thing has there's a lot of science based on that is an evolutionary advantageous thing.
Dude.
That
super
happens.
fascinating.
It's why like you don't kids might not like eggs or whatever when they're like I didn't like eggs when I was a little kid.
I didn't either.
I grew to like them.
And you
as
shouldn't
an adult.
like eggs when you're a kid because you don't know whether they've gone bad or not. That's the
well,
point.
I mean,
you
maybe.
don't know how to smell the egg and know it's rotten.
Maybe
You're right.
That's it, but
So you buy. This is the point. This is what this study had shown, is that children have a biological distaste for a lot of things because those things are more easily deceptive to your own survival.
And there's some obvious things in there too, like some things that the mother has aversions to, or that
like allergens and shit.
Well, not even necessarily allergens, but things that the mom doesn't like, or that doesn't taste good to them. Like those taste bud or those preferences are oftentimes transferred.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Through that too.
That
like,
wasn't a part of the study that I was reading.
No. But there's also some other like more obvious like in utero kind of transfers like that things that happen.
But this is a literal example of why like I didn't like Brussels sprouts as a child.
Yeah.
Fucking love them now.
I love vegetables.
Like there's a biological advantage to disliking green vegetables as a child. That's
it
what
makes
I'm trying
sense.
to explain.
Yeah, I mean,
well, then I guess I'm the
Fascinating.
oddball.
Yep.
Fucking fascinating.
Because I loved split pea soup. Like, that is one of my favorite things in the whole entire world is split pea soup. I didn't like eating regular vegetables, but I would eat split pea soup,
weird.
which had carrots in it and such.
Yeah, but that's a soup. Like, there's a bunch of shit
Right.
in there that makes it good.
Mom was
Like,
intelligent.
I'm talking about just straight up
It's a pretty-
veggies.
yeah.
Right, but
yeah.
Mom was intelligent enough to recognize that I wouldn't eat my vegetables. She figured out a way to get me to eat my vegetables.
Yeah, so I wonder if that's one of those things too, like what we were talking about earlier, is like we knew in ancient times we need these, but they suck. Let's figure out a way to make them good. It wasn't, or was it just, we're starving to death. How do we make these edible?
Yeah, I think there's
It's
an
definitely
element of
one
that
of
to
the
it.
two.
Yeah.
It's one of the two, and I wonder which one it is. Do we have to make this edible, or do we know we need to eat this for health reasons?
I think
we got to make it edible. Like, we made it edible for one or two reasons: starving or health reasons.
I mean, I think one kind of turned into the other.
You think?
Like, I think the
You
starving thing came
That-
first.
That's probably
Right.
They figured out that this
Survival
this
mechanism.
won't kill us when we eat it. This won't kill us when we eat it.
and it's more
Right.
tolerable
Yeah.
if we do it this way.
People had to
Well,
get
thank you, my love.
creative.
Yeah.
Like you said, I use the word intelligent, and you're like, no, that's creativity. Like,
oh yeah, so we had a whole ass conversation. I want to ask you about this
Sure.
as a musician.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe intelligence exists.
Well, if you're talking about like intelligence on like I took an intelligence test and an IQ test, and my IQ came back with X number or whatever, I
don't think intelligence exists.
I think it's a label.
Intelligence is creativity, and creativity is problem solving.
There's just
he's correct.
Extrapolating.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at its base value, you could like drop it down to that like completely. I mean, there's some conversations to be had about like.
I think intelligence is nothing more than memory recall. I think we mistake intelligence for the ability to memorize information and recall that information.
Yeah, but
that's what we call intelligence. I don't think that's intelligence. I think intelligence is what we call creativity, which is the ability to extrapolate incomplete information and problem solve. It's a vision, because not everybody has this, Eric.
Yeah, that's really clear.
No, and I mean literally. Some people don't fucking dream, dude.
I know.
Some people cannot. You can describe to them in detail something perfect, and they can't fucking see it, homie.
Yeah, no. There's different.
So
again, it's an abstract versus complex intelligence.
I think intelligence is actually creativity. And
sure.
I think what we call intelligence is nothing more than memory and memory recall. That's why people like Joe Rogan say, I'm not smart. I just have the ability to remember shit and recall it verbatim.
Sure.
And he goes, I'm not smart. I think he's right. I think he's incredibly intelligent, which is the ability to remember shit.
Sure.
But he also is actually smart. He's actually intelligent because he is creative. He has the ability to take a concept and then extrapolate that in an absurd analogy and do it in a humorous way, because comedy is insanely creative. Maybe the most creative thing. Like comedy might be more creative
sold me
than
on
music,
this concept.
Bro. Comedy might be more creative than music because music is nothing more than an organization of frequencies. It's fucking math, dude.
Yeah.
It's pulses.
Yeah.
Music is nothing more than organizing frequencies. Comedy is true creativity in my mind, because comedy takes the ability for you to take an idea or a concept in a way that no one else sees it and convince them that even if they don't agree with you, what you're doing is funny.
Sure.
So I no longer believe that what we call intelligence is intelligence. I think Rogan is right. I think it's memory recall. Real intelligence is creativity, which I would describe as the ability to extrapolate incomplete information and problem solve. And that's how you write songs. That's how you write jokes.
And once you said that,
based on that explanation, it makes sense.
Once you said that to me,
motherfucker.
Totally.
Oh yeah. Once you said that to me, though,
I'm dying for clips now.
It
dude.
clicked.
We gotta make clips, dude. We gotta make clips.
It clicked at that moment when you said that to me.
And this is just my interpretation of this.
You know what it is? It's that it feels like my cat is like sitting right here. It's just my cat. That's what it is. That's what it. Yeah.
It is comforting.
Sorry. Distracted. Anyway.
You know what it is? You know what it actually is? You're a vocalist, so you're used to being close to it. And this is way more comfortable than a raw.
Oh,
great.
God, yeah.
Like your hair's not getting caught in the middle of it, right? Like when you sing on stage, you kind of like keep it at a distance so your facial hair doesn't get caught in it.
Yep. Anyway. Yeah, creativity, intelligence, all those things.
It has changed.
I don't know, man.
It has legitimately changed how I look at the world.
I think we burnt Eric out. I think that's what's happening.
I think my brain
we can save this one. We can save
this
this one for another podcast.
Sure.
But yeah, he sold me on this concept.
Yeah.
And I can explain it at another point.
Yeah, no worries. Sounds good.
I explained it perfectly fine, Jason. Yeah. We don't need to do it again. I love you guys.
We might, likewise.
You're playing Thursday.
Next Thursday, Reaping. Yep.
December
19th
at the Amsterdam
Hamster Slam.
I am playing January 17th at Club Underground in Minneapolis. Links are in the description. Like, subscribe, share. We love you guys. We miss you guys. Help us get to 500 subs so we can get Jason paid. But He's not going to be there anymore. He's going to be behind the booth where he belongs.
This was me taking my shot. That's all this was.
Hey, you got it.
He took a shot. He took a shot.
You're good.
He took a shot. We support it. We support the drive. We support the motivation. We love you guys. Go to lockkeyfit.com.
Yes, sir.
Follow Eric online
Yep.
on his socials. Everything's in the descriptions. We love you guys. We're out.
Bye.
Jason, get the fuck back there and end this podcast. What the fuck are you doing, dude?
I know. Double
Fuck.
duty here.
Dude, there's one duty. You get paid for one duty.
I don't get. Well, I get
You are a paid employee, dude.
yes.